think Tevez going to Juventus, what a coup that was for me. I mean,
on a head-to-head battle, Atletico Madrid can do more damage to Barcelona than the other way around.
Either he's really blind or he's fixing the match. I can't see it any other way.
It is an upset. You would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
And Bayern Munich are going to be favourites for me against anybody at home in the world. The 03-04 season, actually, Olympiacos have won 8 of the last 10 domestic league campaigns, so there is only really one team in Greece, which we kind of already knew.
Because things have been pretty much decided, just as a quick glance before we go through the table, PSG is going to lock up this thing with one more point. Monaco's solidly in second place. Lille is going to be in that Champions League qualifier position, 7 points ahead of Saint Etienne. If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You're going back to play for, like in Argentina, for River Plate or Boca Juniors, or you're going to Europe.
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
I am your host, Joe Usello. My co-host, Rob Rojas. My trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 54 of Low Limit Football on Low Limit Poker Radio. I am your host, Joe Usello. Joining me as always tonight, my co-host, Rob Rojas. Rob, what's going on?
I'm doing great. Ready for another good show tonight.
Good. And the ever faithful Ben the Machine. Ben, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to another two guests and a lot of football to talk about as always.
Excellent. We've had ourselves a busy week here at Low Limit Football. We got a little bit of airtime, I guess, for lack of a better term. First thing I want to start out with is thanks to Tim Stannard at beIN Sport, Terry Badu at beIN Sport, Jeremy St. Louis for name dropping a couple of weeks ago to work out what was basically an on-air or at least a pre-recorded interview that I did with Tim Stannard that was actually played with Jeremy St. Louis on last week's Wednesday night's edition of The Locker Room, where we talked about our clone league and our All-Star Champions League type setup that we did, the simulations that we did with the help of SirBob, and it went off really, really well. I mean, in the end, they had Drake Cordero and Matteo Bonetti talking about the results, and it worked out for them because they're two of the biggest gamers at beIN Sport, so they got to sit there and analyze all the information that SirBob gave to me to give to them. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, I know you guys have gotten a chance to see it. What were your thoughts? Rob, I'll go to you first. What were your thoughts on the whole interview and segment that they did?
I thought it was great. To be fair, I only thought, you told me before that there was probably going to be at least 3 minutes of your interview, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
but the whole segment lasted a good 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
When they called me, it was literally no more than a 3.5 minute conversation on the phone. Yeah. So Ben, I know you finally got a chance to see it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think it was great. I think Rob was right. It was around about 7 minutes, and obviously for them to have a segment that big on national television, obviously thanks to Bob, but it shows that what we're doing on the show is it's relevant to football, and what we're doing is it must be decent, and it's good material as well. And I think for us to talk about it and then them to talk about it, it just shows how much interest there is in the subject, and I thought it was really fun and obviously good for them, good for us.
That was a good time. So I want to thank those guys again for doing that. I think that was a lot of fun. Before I move any further, people in the chat or people listening live, our phone in number is 860-615-4553. That's 860-615-4LLF. We've got two great guests coming on tonight. We've got Joel Richards, who is a writer for Southern Cone correspondent for CCTV America based in Buenos Aires. He's going to be coming on to talk to us about the Copa Sudamerica. We had leg one happen last week, and we've got the second leg, Rob, this Thursday, if I remember correctly.
This Wednesday night.
It's this Wednesday night, okay. We also had the drawing last week for the Copa America, which I wanted to talk to him about. So we're going to have him on for a few minutes. And then at 7 o'clock, we're going to have Kevin Kinkead on. And I think, guys, as far as I know, Kevin is the only Emmy award-winning writer we've ever had on the show, so that's pretty cool. He works for CBS 3 in Philadelphia, and he covers MLS for CBS 3. He's also written for Philly Soccer Page. We've got some questions for him on the Philadelphia Union, MLS. They had their championship just wrap up yesterday that we'll talk about with him, and we'll get into a little more detail with it a little bit later on. But we've got him coming on at about 7 o'clock as well tonight. So, pretty good guests. We've got some great guests coming up tonight, and we can kind of spread it out a little bit. And I know that Rob and Ben, we are working on getting a few big guests possibly for next week. Last thing I want to mention is that we only have 2 more shows left in the year. We have this week and we have next week. And then we will be off on the 23rd and off on the 29th, I believe it is. And then we come back on January 6th, I think is the actual date. I'd have to double check my dates to be sure. So we're going to take a couple of weeks off for the holidays to spend time with family and friends and I guess do the right thing for once, right? So, guys, any other thoughts you want to add in before I get Joel hooked up here? Ben, I'll go to you first. Anything you want to talk about this week in football?
Not aside from what we already planned to talk about, but I think there's a lot of interesting stories tonight. Obviously, and the stuff coming out of Man City as well. We're going to touch upon Blackburn as well. Obviously, like you said, the MLS Cup just finished. We're halfway through the Copa Sudamerica final as well. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming to an end now, and we're also getting a good idea of the leagues now as well. So we've got lots and lots to talk about tonight, and loads of opinions, I'm sure. Right.
And Rob, how about you? Any other thoughts you want to throw in here before we get Joel hooked up on the line?
No, I was actually going to mention, you were talking about the Copa America draw just happening last week. Also, the Copa Libertadores draw already started.
That's right. That was live last week as well, and actually I didn't even pull up anything for that because that's not going to happen for a little while. I thought the 2 pressing things were going to be the Copa Sudamerica tonight, and possibly start adding stuff about the Copa America. So, joining us live right now on Low Limit Football is Joel Richards. Joel, this is Joe Usello. How are you tonight?
Evening, Joe. Very well, thanks. Greetings from Buenos Aires.
Excellent. I'm going to introduce you to my 2 co-hosts first and foremost. Over in England is Ben the Machine. Ben, if you want to say hi to Joel.
Hi, Joe. It's really nice to have you on the show, and we're going to try and pick your brain a little bit.
Thanks, Ben. Pleasure to be on.
And the second co-host is Rob Rojas back here in the United States. So, Rob, if you'd like to say hi to Joel.
Hi, Joel. It's good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah. Delighted to be invited on.
So, Joel, thanks again for coming on. I'm gonna start you off with a pretty easy question, and it pertains to the Copa Sudamerica. Obviously, we're in the finals. We have the second leg on Wednesday between River and Atlético Nacional from Colombia. What kind of match can you expect out of the second leg, knowing that we finished with a 1-1 draw in the first leg in Colombia?
I think everyone's really looking forward to this return leg because the first game in Colombia was really a fantastic match between 2 sides who play really attacking and attractive football. And Nacional, River Plate have become very used in the past 3 or 4 months to having things pretty much their way. Even though they've let slip the title here in Argentina, but they've been playing really attractive, very fluid football, and really they found their match in Atlético Nacional, but which with the 1-1 draw obviously means it's wide open. But I think really it's great to see that South American football struggles financially to hold on to its best players, and so when you see sides that come out and play a high pressing game, trying to play attractive attacking football, it's really refreshing, and that's certainly what here in Argentina we've seen with River Plate, and the little that I've been able to see of Atlético Nacional is exactly the same. So and the other thing is to really highlight is that colleagues were saying that the atmosphere in Medellin in Colombia was absolutely sensational last week, and can guarantee that it's going to be exactly the same here in Buenos Aires on Wednesday. So a really fantastic atmosphere, really a lot of the essence of what South American football's like, and some excellent play on the pitch as well, which, as I said, is very refreshing.
I would definitely echo those sentiments because, if you just rewind back to the semifinal between Boca and River, just the 2 stadiums on the 2 different legs were just a sight to see, and really kind of the soul of world football rests in South America, it feels like to me, when you watch some of these crowds. and people just going absolutely crazy. It's a lot of fun, that's for sure.
It's a lot of fun, but what I would say is, with that, the Super Classico was pretty intense here. I mean, it was the hype was just really got into overdrive, and because it was the first international Super Classico in 10 years, so people had been waiting for that game a long time. And you're right, at the Bombonera when Boca were home, and then at the Monumental when River were home, both games were just amazing atmospheres. But the first game, the match at the Bombonera, was really dire, very poor football, both sides kicking each other, probably River even more than Boca, which historically is not quite what you'd expect. But the second leg, though, had absolutely everything. So you're right. I mean, I think it's a great final, and Wednesday's match should be a really good showcase for the continent's.
No doubt. I'm going to pass you off.
Top tournament, because that's the Libertadores, but it's nonetheless an important trophy.
Well, the Libertadores trophy also rests in Argentina with San Lorenzo this year too. So it seems like Argentina, although some people might not want to admit it, is kind of the center of world football these days. If you really think about it, with Argentina's performance in the World Cup as well, it's hard to say that they're not. So I do have one more Sudamerica question, but I know my co-hosts are waiting in the wings. So Rob, I'm going to pass it over to you for your first question for Joel.
Yes, hi, Joe. Moving away from the Sudamericana, I actually have a Libertadores question. Obviously, this tournament is renowned a lot in Latin America as being the biggest tournament in the world, for that in Latin Americans' opinions. But why do you think a lot of people outside that area, Latin America, and obviously the United States, with a lot of Latin American community, doesn't get as much attention in, say, Europe, Asia, Africa, etc.?
Sure, I mean, it's a really interesting question, because what the Libertadores boasts is this, fantastic tradition and history and great stories. And when you look at the heroes of teams that have won the Libertadores, they're names that have gone on to be world stars. So, players who've gone on to be to have done very well in Europe, for example. I think there is a difficulty in selling to viewers, South American football, because there's a massive turnover of players. I think that's the main thing, is that you don't get this idea of a team that is built over the course of a few years, and that there's this team that people really get to know very well. And even a few years ago that was possible still, but I don't think it doesn't happen quite so much. So the sides are very new. In general, there are a few players that have hung on, but generally they're really rebuilt. When you compare to teams in Europe who often will, especially the top teams, they'll bring in 2 or 3 top names to strengthen the squad, but that's basically it. So I think that there's an element of that, and there's an organizational side to it as well, and just that there's not the final. So the finals played home and away, and that does mean that I think not that there's a lack of tension, but there's not this big finale that you have with the Champions League, for example, whereby you've got this one big match where all the focus is on. Having the home and away leg somewhat takes away from that. And then, of course, I mean, you're right, in the States, and this is what I was going to say about the timing shouldn't be an issue, because obviously we're pretty much the same time zone, but certainly in Europe, the timing makes it very difficult. Games are played at for the UK or Spain audience. These matches are often played at 2 or 3 in the morning, so there's an element of that as well. But I mean, obviously, I think the main thing is just that the big names are not in Latin America. So you've got promising youngsters, but of course who people still aren't that aware of, and then you've got the older players returning. So spring to mind, Riquelme obviously returned very very young to. Or younger to Boca, but Veron, for example, Juan Sebastian Veron, after a career in Inter Milan, Lazio, Chelsea, Man United, returned and lifted the trophy with Estudiantes, which was a great story. So the people like that attract viewers, I think, to audiences. But I mean, there are problems with it, and it is a bit of a hard sell for sure.
Okay, just a few follow-up questions. Obviously, in the last edition of the tournament, San Lorenzo won the finals against Nacional 2-1 on aggregate. What makes this San Lorenzo squad that was really special, given that they won the league and then went on to win the Libertadores the following year? What makes this special and better than all the other clubs in Argentina this season?
That's an interesting question. It's funny that when we were talking about this turnover of players, the side that San Lorenzo won the league title with is quite different to the side that won the Libertadores. And I'd go even further than that. There were players who took part in the semi-final of the Libertadores for San Lorenzo, such as Nacho Piatti, who left to go to Canada, who didn't then take part in the final. So, again, there's a constantly changing side here. So there's an element of that. And since winning the Libertadores, San Lorenzo have really struggled in the league. Their form has been very poor. So, I don't recall exactly where they are, but they're mid-table in the Argentine league. So it's very difficult to maintain. But what they brought, I think Edgardo Bauza, who was the coach who won the Libertadores with Liga de Quito as well in his previous job in Ecuador, I think his experience was very important, because San Lorenzo are a side who, in Argentina you have the big five. You've got River and Boca, and then you've got Independiente and Racing, and then you have San Lorenzo. And of the big five, San Lorenzo were the only side who'd never won. So there was this element of history on the one hand playing against them, but also as they got to the quarterfinals and then the semis, there was this enormous expectation. So I think in that sense, Edgardo Bauza's experience was very important. But they had a strong backbone of players, players who were amongst the best in for the domestic league. So many things came together. The club was also enjoying a strong moment institutionally, and that's also very important. So many clubs have issues to deal with debt and various other problems. So San Lorenzo just got at the sweet point, I think, and that's really what helped them. Some of the external factors that came together to help them get the very historic win. Not to mention, of course, the influence of the Pope, which many people are keen to highlight.
Okay. Obviously, San Lorenzo, with this Copa Libertadores victory, have the chance to play in the FIFA Club World Cup in Morocco in about a few weeks. Do you see them going to the final? And if so, if the final is against Real Madrid, do they have what it takes to surprisingly beat the defending European champions?
Yeah, interesting. This is the Club World Championship is viewed as South America against Europe, and obviously they have got to get through the semi-finals, and that has proved a hiccup for a few clubs that hadn't been expecting it in recent years. But you would expect San Lorenzo to make it to the final, and then Madrid have just broken records for the most consecutive wins, and we all know the stars there. Ronaldo, Cruz. Just the amount of names that James Rodriguez will miss the Club World Championship through injury, but nonetheless, you just can't compare the resources available. So I think Madrid have a budget of around 14 million euros for youth team players, just to go and buy a promising young talent. And San Lorenzo have nowhere near that for the entire club's budget. So in terms of resources, you simply can't expect them to do anything to get anywhere near them. But you look back a couple of years, Estudiantes when Alejandro Sabella, who was of course Argentina coach at the World Cup, when he was at Estudiantes, they played Barcelona with the Guardiola Barcelona, and they came very near to providing an upset. It was a very late goal from Leo Messi that won that for the side from Catalonia. So you never know. On paper, it's absolutely impossible. But as I said, you look at teams like Estudiantes, who were able to take the game to Barcelona when nobody really expected them to. So it's not completely impossible, but certainly here people are not they want to see San Lorenzo in the final, and that's that's good enough really, because it's just such a tall order when you look at the quality that Real Madrid have and just how well they're playing as well, because Madrid have always had resources, haven't they? But they've not always obviously been on this kind of form that they currently are. So it's a very, very tall order, but I'm sure a challenge that everyone's very much looking forward to.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Ben for any questions.
Yeah, hi Joel. Actually, he's kind of been touching upon the question I wanted to ask you. Actually, obviously there's a lot of strength in club football in South America, but like you spoke, financially they find it hard to match up. But I know we spoke a little bit about the time difference as well. But do you feel that South American teams in particular, should get more of a chance to play competitive games with the European teams? Yeah,
I think it'd be very interesting to see that, and it's always the whole. if you take it to the debate in the UK about the Scottish teams, right, and if Celtic and Rangers were to have the income of the English Premier League sides, then within a few years, they'd be up there with them. And if there was a format in which South American clubs were able to access more income, primarily from TV money, because that's where much of the income for European sides comes from, of course, then maybe there would be this opportunity for them to hold on to players longer, and through that, then really be able to challenge them. It's still interesting that because of the way things work here, they don't travel so much. So, pre-season tournaments in Argentina, they all play each other. So you have River and Boca play each other 3 times in the pre-season, just before the league starts, and they play many other, Independiente, they play other sides as well, and they just do all these very internal sort of round robins, mini tournaments during the summer. So instead of going over to Europe and playing against some of the European sides, so it'd be interesting if, on the one hand, if there are more friendlies to gain that experience, and then also, we saw there are changes coming with UEFA with this new international tournament, and you wonder whether the federations, whether it's possible or not, but whether UEFA and CONMEBOL were able to put something together to have something slightly more substantial than just the Club World Championship and the champions of their respective competitions. And it would be interesting to see them pitched against each other. But as I said, at the moment, you just simply can't compare. And the best players here, Mauro Zarate, for example, the striker who was at Vélez, he was one of the best players in Argentina, and he went obviously to the Premier League, to West Ham, which they're doing very well at the moment, but no one expected to see West Ham third in the Premier League at this stage of the competition. So, he went from being one of the best players to not one of the best teams in Europe, So the difference is huge. But it would be interesting, and I think there's a lot of interest in it, and people do want to see the young players here, because of course that's what, obviously Brazil, but in Argentina here as well, it really stands out for just the conveyor belt of talent that it manages to continue to churn out, and I think that's what a lot of people are interested in that.
Mm-hmm. It's the old adage that, obviously if they did that, they'd get more time on television, so then they'd get more revenue, so then, it attracts more players. It's kind of a catch-22. Just wanted to ask you a little bit about the Argentinian Primera A, if I can just get your opinion on it. Obviously it's a strong league, like I said, we've been talking about a few of the teams from there, and obviously it's quite close at the top at the moment. Just want to get your opinion on what your prediction is for the overall winner, and how close you feel it's going to be.
Yeah, we've got it's quite a funny situation because River Plate are in the final of the Sudamericana, and because they're in with a shout of winning the league, though the games for the 2 title contenders have been delayed. So we've got 2 matches to be played next weekend. Racing are home to Godoy Cruz, and Godoy Cruz, who've scored a lot of goals but have the worst defensive record in the league, and River are away to Quilmes. So Racing currently have a 2-point lead. So basically, it is there for Racing to throw away. If Racing draw and River Plate win, we'll have a playoff. Here in Argentina, if teams are level on points at the top, goal difference doesn't come into it, nor does the amount of wins. They have a head-to-head. So, that would be quite exciting. River Plate really burnt out. They were playing great football, but really they drew 6 matches and just lost their wind a little bit in the midpoint of the season. And so really Racing Club, who at the moment are standing out very much, they haven't been playing as attractive football, but they've got a number of really, really talented players, and I was mentioning players who return slightly, in the last few years of their career. Well, Racing have Diego Milito, the former Zaragoza and Inter Milan striker, and he's been absolutely sensational for them. And as I said, they go in with a 2-point cushion to this weekend, so the chances are that the probabilities that they'll win, they'll beat Godoy Cruz, and they will win their first title since 2001. But as I said, if they draw and River Plate win, then we'll have a head-to-head, which would be a fantastic prospect. Because when the 2 met in the league, River Plate held back many of their players because they had the Sudamericana clash with Boca, so they prioritised the Sudamericana. It would be interesting to see River's first team out against Racing, but as I said, it's all in favour of Racing at the moment. No one really disputes that River have played the best football, but of course, as I said, they drew many games and Racing have managed to grind out results and put themselves in this position. So everyone's expecting Racing, but it's been a great league, I have to say. It's been a vast improvement on football, on the football played, despite everything that's going on in the background. So next year, the league moves up to a 30-team division, which is still, no one quite knows how it's going to work out, how it's going to be organised. So changes are afoot, but as I said, this year's been good fun. There's been some good football, some good players to highlight, and it's been very entertaining stuff.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to hand you over to Joe. I know he's waiting for a few questions here.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my last question for the Copa Sudamerica that I wanted to ask wasn't necessarily an Argentinian question or specific. My question was actually Chilean. Because I started to look over the results of the Copa Sudamerica leading up to this point, and I noticed that Chile sent 4 teams to the tournament: Huachipato, Iquique, Cobresal, and Universidad Católica. And of those 4 teams, only one made it past the first round. And I find this hard to believe, especially given the strength of the national team side. Can you put a finger as to why Chile underperformed in this tournament, but is still a very, very talented national team?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's interesting that obviously Jorge Sampaoli, the coach of the Chilean side, the national team, has really masterminded much of Chilean sides, or rather the country's success in the continent in the last few years with Universidad de Chile, the side that he won the tournament with, and that where he really made his name. And then obviously from that club, then he moved on to the national team. And he just instilled this phenomenal tactical system, very close to the one employed by Marcelo Bielsa. And in fact, Sampaoli is very much one of the coaches, the young coaches, singled out as one of the Bielsa disciples. And so in terms of how the Chile is doing at the moment, much of it is to do with the attention that was drawn because of the Sampaoli team, I'd argue, a couple of years ago. And then also, of course, the process that the national team has undergone, both with Bielsa and now with Sampaoli in charge. I mean, I don't have the exact reason for why each of the teams didn't manage to get past the second round, but I mean, the Chile league is not viewed as such a major league. I mean, even if it is with the economic situation, it's able to pay players more than in Argentina, and so is Ecuador, for example. But nonetheless, it just hasn't managed to dominate. And I wonder if there is a slight, this idea of how even though all the players change, the managers change, everything changes, this weight of history just continues to play. So that's perhaps one of the reasons that the Chilean sides didn't manage to advance, just perhaps a lack of experience. But as I said, it's an exciting time for Chile, with the way that the national team's progressed, and also, of course, as its host of the Copa America coming up mid 2015.
Okay, I'm going to toss you over to Rob. I know Rob has a few questions left, and I think I think all three of us are going to turn our focus to the Copa America for next year. So, Rob, go ahead.
I'm actually going to stick to the subject of the Copa America. Actually,
fantastic.
Obviously, the Paraguay national team were runners up in the Copa America 4 years ago, and undergo I guess during the qualifications for the World Cup in Brazil, undergo its worst performance ever. So obviously they hired former River coach and cult idol, to so to say, Ramon Diaz. So what are your expectations of him doing well on that national team leading up to the Copa America and the qualifiers? Do you think he's going to provide a big change to the national team that was once regarded as one of the best in South America over the last decade?
Yeah, what's happening in Paraguay is very interesting. When you look at the process the national team underwent with Tata Martino, of course, who's now in charge of Argentina. And you mentioned that last Copa America performance when they reached the final. They were comfortably beaten by Uruguay in the final with the Copa America, played here in Argentina. And that was done really. I mean, Martino himself admitted they got really lucky. I mean, they got very lucky against Brazil, with Brazil missing several chances. And Martino himself said it in exactly those words. We were just really lucky. Martino also managed to really blend the spirit, if you like, of the national game, but also, don't forget, he nationalised several players who were then eligible to play for Paraguay. So, he was very cunning and clever about how he...
And we're back. I see SirBob is in the chat. We are trying to get Joel Richards back on the phone. For some reason, we've had some kind of catastrophic disconnect there, but able to get almost everybody back online, and just waiting on Joel again. So let me see if I can... I'm going to disconnect Joel and then reconnect him again. So let's see if we can get him back on the line here, hopefully. Everything seemed to have gone down at once. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we can hunt him down here quickly. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm not sure if it was on my side, if it was on Joel's side, if it was on all of our sides. It's just for some reason everything just went right out at the same time, and managed to get back both Ben and Rob, and just waiting on Joel here. So for some reason he's not connecting. He's showing that he's away when earlier he was showing that he was available. So I'm going to disconnect him completely, and then let's see here. And I don't believe I've lost you guys yet, right? You guys are both still with me?
Yeah.
All right, let me try this one more time, and then we might just have to cut our interview of Joel Richards short, which will really stink because, he's looks like he's back to being available again. So let's see.
He's typing in the chat actually.
Yeah, he was trying to. Yeah. Okay.
He's
so
back.
let's see if let me resend the. Let me just try this one more time. Okay. Let's see. And again, I apologize for all the technical difficulties. Joel, do we have you back on the line?
I am back. My apologies. It's the perils of calling and relying on internet connection here, I'm afraid.
I know what you mean. Well, something happened to all of us at the same time because it actually dropped us off the server for the radio and everything. So, but that's okay. We're back. Okay. We're back in live and we're running. So let's continue. Sorry about that. And I forgot where we were. I believe it was Rob's question.
We were mentioning about the new process of the Paraguayan team after the Copa America and their failure, and what is expected of Ramon Diaz at the helm.
Yeah, I think I mean we touched on it, hadn't we? And just that Ramon Diaz is a very experienced coach who. At River Plate, some of his detractors have said that he often had great players at his disposal, but he's definitely a very strong manager. He's very clever. He works the press very nicely. So he's a man who brings a formidable CV with him. It's true that his success has always been at River Plate. He didn't do so well at San Lorenzo as well. He came very close in the Libertadores, so maybe that's unfair. But at Independiente he didn't fare so well. But a very different profile to Tata Martino. But certainly, he's picking up a side that has fared very poorly in the last year, 2 or 3 years. So you'd expect an improvement there with him. But as you said, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
Okay. Moving away from the Copa America for just a little bit, I want to go back to the Super Clásico, and obviously this is the Super Clásico of Boca Rivers. We regarded as one of the biggest rivalries in the world, biggest derbies and all that. What makes this Super Clásico so special, and I guess we could say bigger than any other derby in the world, say El Clásico or Milan Derby, etc.?
I think it's. It's the eternal question, isn't it? What makes the Super Clásico just quite so special? And there are so many ingredients. There's all the folklore behind it and the mythology of it. So there's this idea that that Boca are the people's team and that River Plate are the aristocrats side, and they're from different ends of the city, and that it's a really meeting of two teams that come from very sort of different social backgrounds. That's not quite true. Both of them grew up in La Boca, and so initially this is a rivalry that was a very local rivalry. They both were formed and founded in the area of La Boca, which is the port area, which all the immigrant families from Spain and from Italy arrived at the turn of the 20th century. So it's there that they were both founded, and that's where the rivalry comes from. But then over the years it grew to take on many other different contrasts, and I think that's ultimately what it is. I mean, every derby in the world has its different elements that really make it quite so hard fought. So obviously Barcelona, Madrid. There's the whole political context there. Sid Lowe got a great book about this that really explains this very well. In England there are rivalries there as well. Manchester United, Liverpool. It's obviously Scotland, Celtic, Rangers. Here there's the element of how it's almost not quite a philosophical rivalry, but this idea of how the game should be played. So Boca Juniors historically and traditionally have demanded just commitment from their players above anything. It doesn't matter if they lose. They're more than happy to win 1-0 with the goal in the 92nd minute, but it's just all about commitment and really sort of feeling the shirt, as they like to say it. And at River Plate, it's very different, and they expect to be entertained and they expect attractive and fluid football, and something really which we're seeing this year, for example, but for many years River Plate haven't produced, and which has really generated this excitement about River just at the moment. So there's that contrast as well, the style of football, and so really it just brings together many elements that make it just such a special occasion.
No, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, go on. No, and so just just a final point. It's just where it's played. Obviously, the Bombonera is just a sensational atmosphere. So too is the Monumental. Then you also have the fact that both teams always, this is a slightly minor detail, but both teams always play in their home kit. So it always looks the same. And there's just that element of this continuity and this tradition. And when you see grainy pictures from the 60s or the 70s, it still looks very similar. So there's just this really rich history. Then, of course, the fact that between them they fight out who dominates Argentine football. So it's very much a battle for who's the biggest club in Argentina. Of course, Argentina being one of the strongest leagues, therefore it's one of the strongest teams on the continent. So many elements really that make it up, but it is a great rivalry, and certainly one I'd recommend to all of you and your listeners to try and make it down to Buenos Aires to see.
Yeah, obviously I have some family in Buenos Aires, so it'd be a dream to obviously put that on my bucket list to go to a Super Classico match. I'm going to mention one last thing, and then I'm going to give it up to Ben and Joe. Obviously, the Argentine side has a new manager following their appearance in the final in the World Cup, losing to Germany 1-0. What do you think is their expectations on the new manager, Tata Martino, in leads up to the Copa America? Do you see them going far, and even if we're going to go and talk about it more deeply, to win the entire tournament?
That has to be their objective, for sure. And it's a very difficult task for Martino, because he's taking over a side that was finalist in the World Cup in Brazil. So there is the question of quite how much can he improve. I think people are expecting him to be slightly more adventurous with his outlook. I think people were, certainly myself, I was very surprised, as were many, with how Argentina played under Sabella at the World Cup, because in the qualifiers they hadn't played that. They played much more attacking football, even if it was quite direct. But then the way they lined up in Brazil was quite a change from how they had been playing. So I think people are expecting slightly more attacking style and philosophy under Martino, a coach who, we mentioned his work at Paraguay. Obviously, he was heavily criticised for his work at Barcelona, but his record isn't that bad, especially when you consider that the board, he didn't get any defenders signed that he was after, and he really had to pick up the pieces of a squad that was the needed renewal. So So he's a coach with plenty of experience. The Copa America, though, it's interesting because I interviewed him quite recently, and he was already talking about the World Cup, and he didn't seem too fussed about the Copa America. He said it was all eyes on Russia. And I said, well, hang on, what about the Copa America? And he said, yeah, no, it's important, and we'll obviously go wanting to win it. But he just didn't seem quite as excited by it. But I'm sure when it gets closer, then it will be an opportunity, though, for him to. He'll be aiming to win it, of course. And if he were to do that, then certainly it would not steady the ship. There's not a problem, but just it would stand him in good stead, certainly, for going into the qualifiers for the World Cup. But I mean, of course, he still has exactly the same problem as Sabella, which is, what do you do with Messi? Where do you get the best from Messi? How on earth do we accommodate all these strikers? Because as well as Aguero, Higuain, and Tevez, you've got Mauro Icardi, who's also really starting to impress. Paulo Dybala, who's playing in Italy, who's being courted by Italy, so maybe they want to bring him in too, and ultimately he's got the same problem. How do you accommodate all these attacking players? So it's going to be very interesting to see how he manages to do that. But certainly they'll be one of the clear favourites for the Copa America next year.
All right, thank you. Going to pass it over to Ben for any questions.
Yeah, Joel, just staying on the Copa America whilst we're talking about it, I wonder if you could just tell us and tell the viewers who your favourites are for the Copa America, and who are your dark horses?
Interesting. Obviously, we mentioned Argentina. It's going to be very interesting to see what Brazil managed to do over the coming months under Dunga. A big surprise, really, that they went back to Dunga after how the World Cup panned out in South Africa in 2010, and just given that the style, the manner in which they went out of the World Cup to Germany under Scolari, the fact that they went for really a similar style, a very conservative style of football. So that's going to be very interesting, quite what happens there. We mentioned Chile as well, and this is one that can't be underestimated as their hosts, and also though there is a sense of this continuity that's happened in Chile with Jorge Sampaoli taking over from not directly from Bielsa, but very very soon afterwards. There was Bichi Borghi who was in charge, but they were unlucky against Brazil in the World Cup. We'll remember them hitting the crossbar in the last minute against Brazil. And if that had gone in, then don't quite know what would have happened and how far Chile would have gone. So I think as hosts and what they've proved, and certainly some of the talented players that they have in their squad, then Chile would be one to watch out as well. Then you've got Uruguay. Now they've got to make do without Luis Suarez, so that's going to be interesting to see exactly how they cope without Suarez. Ideally, you'd see Cavani taking a much more prominent role for them, but of course they're current winners. They won here in Argentina the last Copa America. So you've got Uruguay, who've won more Copa Americas than any other nation in the continent. So you've got those are the four main contenders, and of course then you've got Colombia, who had a fantastic World Cup too. No one quite knows what to expect from Paraguay. Then you've got Ecuador. It's going to be when you look at it, really you'd say there are 3 or 4 really strong teams in this Copa America, and then a couple of others who are there or thereabouts. So perhaps it'll be maybe Colombia will go one step further from what they managed to do at the World Cup, and really prove that this is the golden generation that so much that people have been talking about. It promises to be a great tournament, but again, we were talking about this with the Libertadores, that it just doesn't enjoy quite the same profile, I think, globally that the European Championships enjoy, and I think the Copa America it suffers from that ever so slightly. I just get the feeling that because it comes a year after the World Cup, it doesn't enjoy the high profile that perhaps it deserves when you consider I think from Spain, I think it's 80 players are going to be who are currently playing for Spanish clubs will be taking part in the Copa America. So there's real quality there, and it should be a great tournament to watch. So hopefully it does get the coverage that it deserves.
Mm-hmm. Just one last question for you, Joel, and then I'll hand you off to Joe to finish. for anyone that doesn't know, Joel's an author, and I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your books, Giles, if that's okay. I know you're the author of Super Classico Inside the Ultimate Derby, and I believe you're currently writing another book on River Plate. I was just wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, sure. No, thank you for the question. It's I'm finishing the book on River Plate, which has taken slightly longer to come to fruition. It's a book that obviously it's about one club, but really it's about Argentine football and just what happened at River Plate is very much the blueprint of what has been happening to Argentine football. So you have River Plate, the club that has won more league titles than any other, even if it has less Libertadores than Boca Juniors or Independiente. But in terms of the domestic league, they've won more league titles, and so when they were relegated a few years ago, it was very much a before and after for the national game. And the question being, just how can this happen? How can one of the biggest clubs in the world, really, how can they be relegated? So the book sort of explores just what happened there. It's the history of the club, but also something of a look into Argentine football. So all the various issues that go on behind and at clubs, which are very politicised. You've got the whole issue with the Barra Bravas, which is very complicated. You've got the exodus of players, the financial constraints. And so the book really looks to explore that. So as I said, it's a book about River Plate, but really it's one that tries to drive at the heart of what's happening in Argentine football. And the Super Classico book, it's a digital only in terms of the format. And it's a short ebook. It's about 10,000 words, and that again just exploring. That's more an introduction, if you like, to the Super Classico that we spoke about a little bit earlier, and just about the rivalry, about what makes it such a special fixture. If you like, a slightly longer answer to your earlier question about what makes the Super Classico such an attractive fixture. So that's it. That's all. I think that's the spiel. That's the sales pitch.
Thank you for telling us that, Joe. Anyone that's listening that hasn't read Super Classico, go and read it. And maybe we can once the book's done, we can get you back on and you can tell us how it's gone. I'm gonna just pass you over to Joe now, and he's just got a few last questions for you.
Yeah, Joel, I just have one last question, because when Ben asked you about your outlook on the Copa America, you kind of answered half of my questions. So for me, I was going to ask you, can Argentina repeat their magic, or is Brazil ready to take over? But I think I'm going to leave that one alone, because you gave us your thoughts on both sides, and especially the Colombia side. So my question to you is, there's a big match that's going to be coming up in the tournament, and I just want to look up the date of it again. I think it was the 17th of June, which is the rematch Brazil-Colombia. We had that fantastic quarterfinal match between the two of them in the World Cup, which Neymar picked up the back injury, and James Rodriguez scored one of the best goals of the tournament. This is a nice big rematch, and in my opinion, in all these opening matches or the first round matches, the match of the tournament on paper. From there, I mean, obviously we see Argentina-Uruguay would be another great matchup, but is there a matchup that you would consider must-see that maybe we haven't mentioned yet?
You're gonna have to let me take a look at the fixtures. I mean, you're right about the rematch between Colombia and Brazil, and obviously I don't know if there's bad blood. I mean, I don't know quite so well just how feeling is after that and the injury that Neymar sustained. But I mean, you're right that it would be that's certainly one of the most exciting games to look ahead to, and of course Argentina-Uruguay is the oldest fixture in world football. So again, that's two of the real powerhouses of the in the region. I'm just having a quick look, and I mean, I'm just thinking if maybe Chile against Mexico is going to be interesting. I mean, it's a very accessible group for Chile. You've got Mexico, Ecuador, and Bolivia in that Group A. I think really you've hit the nail on the head really with those two key fixtures in the first phase, and I'm just wondering how the quarterfinals are going to set up, going to line up, because you'll remember in the last Copa America, Argentina faced Uruguay in the quarterfinals, and Argentina went out as hosts, and that was a major upset. Right. And this is the thing, when we talked about some of the other teams that are taking place and some of the teams that should be looked on as favourites, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, Brazil. There are a lot of lineups, a lot of possibilities there for really big games at the quarterfinal stage, so not even into the last four. And I think that's what's quite exciting about the Copa America. Is it's pretty intense. You know, you've got the European Championships are slightly more inflated. You've got many more sides taking part, and maybe I think at the quarterfinal stage you don't quite. Maybe that's unfair, but I just get the feeling that here in the Copa America, you know, you're guaranteed really big games, not just in the group stages. You already mentioned these two matches, but then also coming out of that in the next phase. And I think just thinking about it, and you know, as we've just talked about in the last few minutes, the Copa America in Chile in 2015 looks like being a really good addition, with several sides arriving in very strong form, and then you've got other sides that, you know, we're not expecting perhaps quite so much, but you know, Paraguay under Ramon Diaz, you know, will they be able to provide something? Venezuela have improved massively over the last 10 years or so, and you know, perhaps they can really leave their mark on the Copa America. You know, they hosted the competition in 2007, and since then they've really continued to improve. So you know, I think it's going to be a really great tournament. And you know, some of those big matchups, you know, we've already got a couple of them in the group stage, but you know, you get to the quarters and then the semis, and of course then the final, and there should be some really exciting matches there with you know, great players, great history, and hopefully just as good football on show.
I agree. It's also, when you look at a 12-team tournament, you'd expect there to be a great deal of quality amongst those 12 teams, even if it is regionalized like this. You know, I would even say the weakest side would probably be the Jamaican side, and they've proven time and time again that they can play a tough match against people, especially in their region. So certainly not a pushover. So Joel, sure. I want to thank you for joining us again tonight. I'm sorry about the internet issue we had earlier, but I'd love to have you on again, especially as we get closer to the Copa America taking off. We could go ahead and analyze a few matches and a few teams and do something like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on, and you know, whenever you guys fancy a chat, then give me a call.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joel. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. And that was Joel Richards. So, guys, fantastic phone call, fantastic interview, and the timing of it is just right, because in 5 minutes we should have Kevin Kinkead calling in for our next segment of our show. So, you know, Rob, I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the interview?
No, I thought it was great. Really knowledgeable about South American football, particularly in Argentina, for that matter. So it's really great to see him talk about a lot of South American football. Yeah, I guess I can say that.
Ben, how about you?
Yeah, it's really interesting to, you know, once again talk to someone that's so knowledgeable about the South American football. And you know, like I said, with Copa America, you know, I think what he said, you know, hit the nail on the head. Really, I mean, I must admit, you know, myself included, that you know, prior to probably, you know, a year, 18 months ago, didn't really pay as much attention to Copa America as I probably should have. And like, when you think of the depth and the strength that, you know, the Brazil, Argentina, you know, Paraguay, Colombia, you know, Chile, there's so many good teams in that, you know, you shouldn't be looking past it, you know, as a football fan as well. And especially the fact that, you know, there's no other international tournament, you know, anywhere near that quality, that, you know, there's no excuse not to watch it. So, yeah, really knowledgeable, and hopefully we do get him back, especially, you know, maybe in and around the final or the semi-finals or something like that, or the start of the tournament. It'd be great, and I'd look forward to that.
Sure. Some closing information about South American football is the good news that just came over Twitter, that Pele will be released from the hospital tomorrow. If you guys remember, on Thanksgiving Day, he was checked into intensive care with a urinary tract infection. So we are about 10 days after him being checked into that intensive care unit, and he's going to be discharged tomorrow. So definitely great news on that front. And I think you and I, you know, guys, when we were talking about Pele and we were talking about the fact that he was admitted with a UTI, I had told you guys it takes usually you've seen about 10 days worth of antibiotic treatment intravenously. And I've got the feeling that they just, to take precautions because of his health, they probably put him in intensive care. I think I mentioned that to you guys in chat, right?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, he did.
So it corresponds right with the time. You know, 10 days after the World Cup. I mean, are we 10 days after? Yeah, actually, we are. I'm sorry, we are 10 days after his hospitalization or his move into intensive care, probably about 11 or 12 days. But that's kind of where we're at. So that is great news to hear. And I just want to switch the focus on you guys now, real quick, before Kevin calls in, because Kevin is going to call in, and we're going to get to North America. We're going to talk about MLS. We're going to talk about the MLS Cup yesterday, the final, the results, Landon Donovan, where his place in history is. And one of the other little tidbits that I wanted to throw out there that just came over the wire is MLS, each team, because of Orlando and NYCFC coming into the league, they're having an expansion draft where teams were allowed to protect X amount of players, and they had to leave some players unprotected. One of the big names that I'm seeing that is unprotected is New York Red Bulls' Tim Cahill. Australian striker. Again, we talked about James Rodriguez scoring one of the goals of the World Cup this past summer. I believe Tim Cahill scored the goal of the World Cup. So I'm going to take the link of this. I'm going to put this in the chat for you guys and put it into the chat in our interactive chat as well, because there's some pretty interesting names there that are kind of left off the roster. And I think this could be a good thing, certainly for the two expansion sides who have already signed their big players, and now they're coming in and they're going to be able to add some pretty nice pieces from other teams. Donovan Ricketts from the Portland Timbers is another one that was left off the protected list. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's quite surprising, that matter.
Yeah, and it's I guess and this is one of the worries about expansion. When you expand any type of league, you start to water it down a little bit. And maybe we're starting to see that, where we're seeing some of these good quality players move on to other sides, or could it be a fact that there's maybe too many, there aren't enough teams and the quality's concentrated? What are you guys' thoughts?
I think expansion has to be a good thing, really, because it gets more people and more, it's going to get more counties and states and just more of America, and build the MLS. And I think, at some point they'll have to expand to two divisions, like we spoke about that before. And I think, I think you're just going to see a higher quality throughout. I think there'll be more and more money pumped into it, and at some point, I dare say because I know drafting is something that's is done in America. It's not done anywhere in Europe, in any sports apart from possibly rugby, but I don't really follow rugby, so that could be something else that could change. But yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised that Tim Cahill is not being protected, because Tim Cahill, even when he was in the Premier League, he looked, obviously he's a bit older now, but like I said, he had a great World Cup. I think he's still a class player, and for me, I definitely think he's still a really, really good player in the MLS, definitely as well.
And if you wouldn't mind holding that thought, joining us now on Low Limit Football is the aforementioned Kevin Kinkead. Joe Usello from Low Limit Football, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How you been?
Not much, not bad. I'm going to introduce you to my two co-hosts quickly. First is Rob Rojas. Rob, if you want to say hi to Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. It's nice to have you on the show.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, and the last one is Ben the Machine over in England.
Hi, Kevin. Nice to have you on the show, and I look forward to speaking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. This is exciting, huh? The expansion draft list just came out like 10 minutes ago. Huh?
I know, and it's funny you should mention that. We just I saw it pop up on my Twitter feed, and I just patched it into my co-hosts. Some interesting names left off of there. The most glaring omission is probably Tim Cahill, I would say, as kind of the big marquee name that's been left unprotected. Any other names? Obviously, like you said, it's only 10 minutes old. You probably haven't had a chance to digest the whole thing, but
I actually I knew I was hopping on with you guys, so I popped up the email real quick, and I just grabbed a pen and a piece of paper here at Channel 3, and I just wrote down. I went through the list and just wrote down a bunch of names real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Tim Cahill pops out definitely, and it's not, with this whole expansion draft thing, you just remind people that, if you take these guys, you're taking their contracts too, you're taking their option years and all that kind of stuff, and so Tim Cahill, obviously, he's making 7 figures, 1.5 million or whatever, but it's intriguing, it looks like both of these teams do have money, so if you think NYCFC takes a pass on Tim Cahill and says, hey, why don't you come across to why don't you come join us in the Bronx? We'll pay you the same amount of money that New York Red Bulls were paying. It's always intriguing. The crazier things have happened.
Sure.
But Tim Cahill was obviously the big name. There's some really good young names out there too. I mean, look at all the talent that's in the league now compared to the last time we did this, like 4 years ago. I'm looking at Patrick Mullins, who played in the final yesterday. He's out there. Diego Fagundes, whose name is out there as well.
Big name.
Benji Hoya, Gali Basumande. There's a lot of guys out there.
Another one that jumped out at me, and I'm just going to confirm this here, is Donovan Ricketts. Yeah, Portland Timbers left him unprotected as well. So if you're in need of a goaltender, he's not a bad one to pick.
No, he's not, and they signed Adam Kwarasi, the Ghana international, today. So I think that when Ricketts' name popped up on the expansion draft list, we kind of expected that was coming. Mm-hmm. The Timbers made a lot of moves actually today. So I wouldn't. As good as he's been over the years, I wouldn't be surprised to see him go as well. A couple other younger guys, Tommy McNamara, who was having a good season with Chivas before he got injured. He was picked up by DC. He's exposed. Yeah. Corey Ash, Issy Nakajima Ferran. Pedro Ribeiro and Richie Marquez here in Philadelphia. Those were kind of surprises that Ribeiro wasn't protected. Khalif Al-Hassan also out in Portland. The couple of the guys from Vancouver, Fernandez and Mezquita. Bright DK, if he can stay healthy, he's a great young striker still. So there's a lot of names out there. The thing with this expansion draft is that I don't really know if but both of these teams, Orlando and New York, already have a good core group of guys, and it makes you wonder if they really need any of these players from the expansion draft, or if they're just going to take, rights to players or try to wheel and deal here and try to make some trades and stuff like that. But you can build a pretty good core around some of the guys, some of the names that came out a couple minutes ago.
Sure. Now my next question, sticking with the theme of the expansion draft is, obviously some players are going to be picked up and some teams are going to get watered down because of it. And then in a couple of years, we're going to actually have expansion teams come out of, hopefully Miami, you would think. And I believe the Atlanta Silverbacks are coming into MLS as well, at last I knew. So we're probably going to see a rebirth of this expansion draft. Do you think we're starting to get to the point now where maybe the league is going to start watering itself down a little?
Yeah, I think it does. But, I look at these lists that came out today, and I see a lot of talent out there, and even though you're going to 21 teams or 20 teams, or I don't even know what the heck we're at anymore. I think it's 21 teams, but no, there is still a lot of talent out there, and the difference is that I think that Orlando came into this with sort of an infrastructure already in place. They had played, for several years in USL Pro after making the switch from Austin. New York's coming into it with no infrastructure but a ton of money. So they've already signed guys like David Villa and Frank Lampard, and they've brought in some nice pieces and Saunders and Jeb Brodsky and stuff like that. So I don't know. It depends on how these teams come into the league. Again, Miami and Atlanta won't have any. They're coming. They're going to be starting from scratch, but both of them are going to have a lot of money behind them, with Arthur Blank kind of money and David Beckham getting involved and whoever his ownership group might be. So I don't think it'll necessarily be watered down, but because these teams will already be able to buy their way into a core group of players, be able to have a couple designated players on the books before they even start.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna turn the focus before I send you over to Ben, because I know the guys are patiently waiting. One last question I want to ask is the Philadelphia Union, who are pretty close to where you are, obviously, weren't actually sleeping on the job either today, as they dealt Okugo to Orlando City, and they picked up CJ Sapong from the Sporting KC. And Sapong is a guy that, in my opinion, fell a little bit out of favor over the past year, especially with Dominic Dwyer scoring all those goals for him. Your thoughts on picking up CJ Sapong, more importantly than the loss of Okugo?
Yeah, I think you're right when you say it was Dom Dwyer. It was really about the emergence of Dom Dwyer more than anything as to why CJ Sapong wasn't getting minutes. On that team, but he played a significant role in the 2012 team that won the U.S. Open Cup, and he played a significant role in the 2013 that won the MLS Cup. So, the Union did not have any forward depth at all this year. Really, they had Connor Casey at 30 whatever years old he is now as a starter, and then you had Brian Brown, who's just a lone player who was actually released today. He was sort of backing him up, and then they had Pedro Ribeiro, who's really not even a striker, who was playing behind him. So they needed a guy in CJ Sapong who was a bigger body, who had experience playing in this sort of like 4-3-3, kind of 4-2-3-1 kind of system with a big lone striker. Mm-hmm. So he was a good bit piece. He was a good depth piece for them. He's not going to be a starting striker next year. I mean, hopefully not. They have have eyes on Europe, trying to spend like 7 figures on a DP striker out there. But he was a good depth move, I think.
All right. I'm going to send you over to Ben. I know, like I said, I know he's been patiently waiting. Ben, go ahead. Your first question for Kevin.
Yeah, hi Kevin. Just wanted to get your opinion on the MLS Cup final. Obviously, it just went. What was your opinion on the game?
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest game, was it?
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
It was a bit slow to start. It was cagey. I think that Los Angeles was conservative, and they came out conservative playing on their home field, and you saw that they weren't too concerned with taking a risk going forward and trying to get that goal in the first half. I think that you saw they were not playing a high line. They were sort of sagged back a little bit deeper. Omar Gonzalez and Leonardo kind of sat back a little bit deeper because they didn't want Lee Win and they didn't want other guys getting behind them. And when you have a midfield combination like Sarvas and Janino who can cover as much ground as they can, then you can afford to have that little gap, that extra space in between your two lines, your back line and your midfield line. The Revs looked kind of nervous. There's some bad touches. Lee Win didn't exactly look like himself to begin with. There was a couple of chances where I thought he could have taken a shot on his left foot or he could have tried to make a play on the ball. But we got a better finish out of it. But, cup finals, even in Europe and even in South America aren't necessarily the greatest games of all time. The World Cup final, for example, this year. So it wasn't the greatest advertisement for MLS, but you give credit to LA for finding a way to win, even though it probably wasn't the greatest game out there.
Just a follow-on question, Kevin. How do you expect the Galaxy and the Seattle Sounders to do next season?
Probably be right back where they are, I think. I mean, it's funny, when we talk about this league being a salary-capped single entity league that Los Angeles has won. Three of the last five titles or something like that, just shows how good they are at identifying talent and bringing in the right people and getting the right designated players on their team. Robbie Keane, the best designated player to ever play in MLS. Landon Donovan, we all saw what he could do. So, what if they replace him with Kubo Torres or something like that? They've just been so good at bringing in a couple of stars and then building really good pieces around them, really good depth pieces around them. I think we all knew that the Western Conference was a lot better than the Eastern Conference this year. So I don't think many people really saw the Revs going in there and being able to win this game. But Los Angeles and Seattle, they have a system in place and they spend wisely, and that's why they're where they are.
Just one kind of question, just kind of coming on from that. Obviously, like you said, it was played at the Galaxy, 27,000 capacity there, and it was filled out to capacity. Do you think that bigger stadiums would be used in future, for such big events? Because I mean, it seems strange. I know obviously soccer's not the number one sport in America, but 27,000 for the pinnacle of the season. Do you feel that there will be a stadium with a bigger capacity used in future years to come?
Yeah, I mean they could definitely fill a bigger stadium for the Cup final. A lot of teams could fill. I mean, Seattle could put 50,000 regularly, and they were putting 60,000 into the stadium for their games against Portland. I would rather the final be played at a neutral site, but it's just too hard to get fans to travel and to be able to to make it the spectacle of what it is. I don't think MLS is at that point where we can do the neutral site really that effectively. It used to be that way, and I think they played a final between Colorado and Dallas and Toronto a couple of years ago. That wasn't the greatest spectacle out there, but the attendance numbers are there, and they definitely can do some good things with that. I'm interested to see what happens if New York City and Miami can get their stadiums approved, and if DC can get their stadium approved, and they'll sort of set the tone with new constructions as to what their arenas are going to look like going forward.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to hand you over to Rob. I believe he's got some questions for you.
Yes, hi. Obviously, the Philadelphia Union were unable to qualify for the MLS Cup playoffs, finishing 5th in their conference, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry, say that again. I was losing you there.
Sorry, the Philadelphia Union did not qualify for the MLS Cup playoffs because they finished 5th in the conference?
Yeah, 6th. I think 6th. Yeah,
it was.
Okay. What do you think contributes to that failure to the Philadelphia Union? What happened?
there's a lot. There's a lot of things, really. I mean, for one, this club. I've covered this team from the beginning, and there really has been a lack of sort of continuity and a lack of sort of a clear vision or clear plan. Obviously they changed managers halfway through the year. John Hackworth didn't even make it to the World Cup break. He was the first manager let go this year, and Jim Curtin came in. He sort of steadied the ship, but by that point they had dug themselves such a big hole already that it was almost impossible to climb out of. They needed to be almost perfect down the stretch, and they lost a couple games, and that was pretty much it. They just had no room for error after they started the way they did. They need a coach in place, and hopefully Jim Curtin's a guy, who has a system, who's got a mentality, who's got a mindset, who can make the right acquisitions and identify the right amount of talent and keep, players around. And they also need to spend more money. I mean, they need to go out and get a DP striker. They need to go out and, identify talent better. They need to beef up the technical staff. They need to scout better. They need to do it in pretty much everywhere, because, look, with Orlando and New York coming into the league next year, and you see what kind of players they've signed already, and we'll see what they have in the expansion draft. Philly's going to fall behind pretty quickly if they don't open the checkbook and start, stepping up to the plate like some of these other teams are.
Okay. What do you think is what do you think are the expectations for the Philadelphia Union next season?
Yeah, it's playoffs or bust. Playoffs or bust for a fan base that's only watched one playoff appearance in 5 years now. And there's really, now there's going to be 6 teams from each conference who get into the playoffs. There's going to be 12 out of 20 teams in the league who get into the playoffs. So if you can't finish in the top 6 of your conference, then that, I don't even know how that looks. It's got to be the playoffs. It's got to be. They made a nice run to the Open Cup final this year. They played a game that was winnable. Ultimately Seattle had more attacking depth and just sort of wore them out at the end. But it's got to be the playoffs. It's got to be the playoffs. They need to see that they need to be competitive. They need to go out and buy a striker. They need to start to develop some kind of identity or something like that. We'll see if Jim Curtin can do it, but it's got to be playoffs or bust.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Joe for any questions. Yeah,
actually, I was going to say, Kevin, you must be ultra popular because I got a message or a question for you, direct message to me on Twitter just now.
Look at that.
One of our listeners is asking about Algerian international Rais Mboli, who played for the Union this year. Were you surprised to see him on the unprotected list?
God, where do I even start with that one? Mm-hmm. that one's caused a lot of headaches over this last season. Yes and no. I just steal a line from former Union coach John Hackworth. I would say yes and no, because it was believed sort of by all of us, and I was one of the people who was putting this out there, that Rais Mboli was sort of a Nick Sakevich signing. Nick Sakevich being the team's CEO and operating partner, and it was widely believed that he sort of brought him in. And Jim Curtin is not necessarily that big of a fan of Rice. I don't think. I think he would prefer to have Zach McMath in there. So to leave him exposed was sort of tells me that Jim Curtin's definitely in charge now, and Nick Sakevich is not in charge anymore. And Jim's going to have 100% control over player personnel decisions. He's going to have 100% control over the roster. But look, all that aside, Rice is carrying a huge salary cap hit anyway. He's one of the highest paid goalkeepers in the league. So, they sort of dangle him out there and say, look, if you want him, you can have him, but he's going to cost you, probably $300,000 at the very least against the cap. So I think it was sort of twofold where they said, look, if he goes, it's no big deal, but also if somebody wants to take him, they're going to have to eat his salary at the same time. So I think that was just sort of Jim Curtin saying, hey, this is my team now, and this is what I'm going to do.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like a win-win for them because, like you said, either they unload the cash or they keep a pretty good goalkeeper. You almost can't lose with the.
No, you're right. Exactly. And you know what the thing is too. If say Orlando goes first and they take Zach McMath, then they can pull back Rais Mboli. Or if New York goes and they select Rice, they can pull back McMath, and you can bring back an extra guy to protect after one of your guys is selected.
Exactly.
So they sort of have a built-in protection for that. Yeah. You know what? To make like a college football kind of comparison, and I don't know how many of you guys are up on this, but the college football playoff selection yesterday, they picked Ohio State over TCU and Baylor. And I guess sort of the common knowledge was that, look, instead of choosing between the Big 12 teams, we'll just pick the other team and take the easy way out, right?
Right.
So basically, one way I see it is that if they leave McMath and Mboli both unprotected, then they can say, look, we'll see how the market values both of these goalkeepers, and we'll see what the market decides, and then we'll go from there,
Right, exactly. So I'm going to actually keep it with, and I got to be honest, I didn't expect to do a lot on the Philadelphia Union tonight, but it looks like we are going to do a lot, which is fine by me. My next question for you is Carlos Valdez. Here's a defender who was loaned out by the Union to San Lorenzo. He goes to San Lorenzo, wins the Copa Libertadores, and then comes back to help out in Philly for the playoff run. Do you see him playing the full season this year in Philly, or do you see him moving on, maybe another loan deal back out to South America?
Well, they've gotten some offers. The Union have gotten some offers to transfer offers for Valdez. Some teams who are interested in acquiring him. I don't know if they're going to sell him or not.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't really been able to find a ton of information on that. But to be honest, that was such a headache with the rumors of him coming back and all the stuff that was floating around South America. It's really hard to get stories straight when it's coming out of there, because a lot of players have maybe multiple agents or representatives or family members who are involved. The media is a little bit different down there. Things are a lot more public than they normally are, and there's always somebody who's kind of twisting your arm. So at this point, I have no clue where any kind of transfer talk is with him. But he's an experienced defender with a good pedigree. So if they can keep him around, then he gets if he gets a proper off season to finally get some rest. He played straight through the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get a break, traveled all over the place. So
Right.
I'd be interested to see what he could do when he finally gets a break.
Oh, no doubt about it. I'm going to throw you over to Ben. I know Ben has one more question for you. I've probably got about 2 or 3, and I'm not sure how much time you have left. So let me send you over to Ben, and then we'll see how much time you've got left from there. So Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, Kevin, just one quick question to you about decision day, with all the final games being played at once on the same day at the same time. What's your opinion on this? Do you think this is a good thing?
Yeah, I think it should be. The reason that one of the things, the factors that plays into it is that they're trying to maximize, TV, the number of eyes who are watching on TV. So if you can spread out a game and maybe do a doubleheader on ESPN, or play one game on NBC on a Saturday and then play another game on a Sunday, it gives you a bigger time frame, a bigger window to get more people to watch. But at the same time, then, if Philadelphia plays New England on a Saturday, and the result of that game makes the Chicago and Columbus game on Sunday pointless, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You're running the risk of killing your audience by results, canceling out other results. So I like the idea of playing everything at the same time. It makes for great drama, doesn't it? But it's going to be impossible for everybody to watch everything at once. You can get away with it when you're playing the Euros, or when you're playing the World Cup and you're doing group stage kind of stuff like that. But when you're talking about probably 9 or 10 different games going on, if you're playing them all at the same time, it's difficult. Even watching English Premier League in the United States, they try to space it out. They'll have a 7 a.m. game, and then the bulk of the games will be at 10 a.m., and then you'll have your sort of prime, quote unquote, prime time game at 12:30. So I like the idea. I just think that it'd be hard to sell to TV executives.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I'm just going to hand you over to Joe to finish.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions, and then we'll let you go. The first one, I'm going to stick with the MLS playoff idea, and they're expanding playoffs to go to a new system, which really just mirrors the NFL system, where the top 2 teams get a first round bye. I'd like your thoughts on expanding the playoff field. Do you think it's a good thing, and do you like that they're mimicking the NFL on this one?
I don't know. I think that. I think that I can't understand a league where more than 50% of the teams get into the playoffs. It just seems to water down the regular season a little bit. Because it's like you get in and you get in, and here why don't you get in the playoffs too? It's gotta stop somewhere. And I don't like the wild card games as it is. They got to find a way. The playoffs have to find a way to get around this international window that pops up in November every year. And And maybe a way to do it is to start earlier. Maybe if you can chop off a game or something, or shorten the season by a week or two, maybe you can do that. But playoff games are always good, and the drama's good and the excitement's good. But at the same time, you're watering it down, I think, when you tell 6 out of 10 teams from one conference they can get in. Because honestly, I mean, look, did Philly deserve to be in this year? Chicago deserve to be in this year? I mean, once you get to the point where then you're looking at like a 4-7 Atlanta Falcons who are playing in the playoffs, and it's just at some point you gotta cut it off, right?
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you bring it up that way, because I think the only other team that was kind of quote unquote deserving in this playoff run this year that didn't get in was probably the Vancouver Whitecaps. And even that was a little bit of a stretch. They played very, very well. I mean, I'm sorry, not the Whitecaps, but the Portland Timbers. Both teams really put out a fantastic effort getting to that finish line, and obviously Vancouver won out in the end. But I think the playoffs shook out the way they were supposed to shake out, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think the cream sort of rose to the top no matter what, and you kind of actually gave me an idea as you were sort of explaining that right there. But remember a couple of years ago when Western Conference teams were playing in the Eastern bracket of the playoffs,
yes.
And maybe you do 4 teams from each conference, and then the 4 wild cards are the best remaining 4 teams overall. And that way, if the Western Conference is better than the Eastern Conference, like it normally is,
mm-hmm.
then you reward a team like the Portland Timbers for having a better season than the Philadelphia Union, and then maybe that's a solution.
Right.
But I definitely think there's better ways to approach it than changing it every year. I mean, what's the point if we have to explain the rules to everybody all over again every year?
Oh, that's a pain in the neck. And you're right. And what's funny about that solution is I think what ends up happening is you leave off the Sporting KC team in favor of the Portland team, which the way Sporting closed out the season wouldn't have really
mm-hmm.
been a bad thing.
No, it wouldn't have. And it's just, at the end of the day, you want to reward teams in any sport, no matter what you're talking about. You want to reward teams for the body of work that they've done over the course of the season, and that's why I was so outspoken last year about New York Red Bulls winning the Supporters Shield, even though they had a fantastic season. They had a great season. Tim Cahill was great. Henry was great. They really did a good job with everything they did, but they played an easier schedule than Los Angeles or Seattle or whatever, because New York got to play Toronto 3 times, and they got to play DC 3 times or whatever. So it doesn't, you can never put as much weight on the playoffs or a trophy like the Supporters Shield when you're playing an unbalanced schedule. It just doesn't work. And so when the playoffs came, and people were looking at Portland, is Portland better than KC this year? Whatever, I don't know, but it's hard to compare those things. Maybe it's a solution to give 4 wild cards to the best remaining overall teams.
Mm-hmm. So my last question for you for the night, we'll close this one out because this is certainly a controversial topic. If you were like me yesterday, you kind of had your eye on the game, watching the final, and at the same time you had your iPad or your laptop or your desktop open and kind of reading the comments on Twitter as to what people were saying about the match. And one thing in the second half that just basically made the match look like second fiddle was the fact that somebody who was flying a banner over the stadium saying that they wanted promotion or relegation now. And yeah. I thought that was hilarious to have it there, but I thought it was also a great idea to have it there. We've had Ted Westervelt on the show before, who's certainly passionate, I guess would be the best way to describe him, about the promotion relegation idea. And it doesn't seem like MLS really wants to budge on this with the single entity and all that stuff. I'd like your thoughts. Could a promotion relegation system work in MLS, and should they have it?
Yeah, first of all, no, I think it's funny to see the plane flying over. I mean, have we made it now in American soccer where somebody is paying money to fly a plane over the MLS Cup final? I mean, before you couldn't find enough people to fill the stadium, and now we have this kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but no, and then I've butted heads with Ted in the past, but I don't think anything. I don't think anything ill of him or whatever. I just
right.
my explanation for pro and rel in the United States is that the business climate just doesn't just doesn't support it.
Okay.
To answer your question, yes, it can absolutely work here. I mean, the country, whether not to make it a political thing, but the country, if you believe it or not, is founded on capitalism.
So they say.
And right, so they say. But we have a single entity league where the business climate surrounding Major League Soccer is not strong enough yet where I'm going to be able to convince an investor, I want you to spend $10 million on my team. Oh, but by the way, you might get relegated to a lower division if you don't perform well, and then you might only have like 2,000 people at your games. Right. When people are threatened with revenue loss and stuff like that, I mean, you see what happens to these English teams when they get relegated. Wigan sells half their players, and then they they lay off a bunch of their front office staff or whatever. Not Wigan specifically. I mean, I'm just taking the team
in general,
or whatever.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't. We're not there in an investor kind of climate. You can never convince any business person here to put their money into something that's still a new product if they're facing that kind of risk. It's really just a business principle. It's just risk versus reward here. So it would make for a great league. It would be amazing. The competition would be great. You'd see teams like Seattle and Toronto be able to challenge the Mexican teams and win the Champions League and do all that kind of stuff. Sure, but whenever I argue with Ted, I just say, look, I agree with you, man. I want promotion and relegation as much as anybody, but it's just the business climate here is not set up for that, and it won't be that way at least for the next 10 years.
Right. I think they'd actually have to, disband the league and start it from the ground up almost. It feels like, because like you said, you find me the Robert Krafts of the world that are going to dump millions of dollars into a stadium and a team, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, they're playing in the third division because we had poor management that couldn't get us the right players to stay above in the league. And I get it, and then there's the, being in Hartford, I lost my hockey team, and this is something that we talk about with Jeremy St. Louis all the time when he comes on the show. For me, the idea of having, let's say a professional soccer team, an MLS team in Hartford, and bringing in, like Thierry Henry coming to Hartford to play a match to get into the playoffs or something crazy. I mean, that's just fantastic. It's such an awesome idea that it's like, okay, yeah, let's do it, and we'll throw together 11 guys with T-shirts on the field here somewhere, and we'll see if we can work our way up the system. But but you're right.
Until that happens, the closest thing we're going to get to that is the U.S. Open Cup. Where occasionally, like the Harrisburg City Highlanders could knock off the Revs or something like that, and see what happens. But I think a good indication of this whole argument, to tell you where this whole argument is at, is you watch the collective bargaining session this off season and watch how it happens. The league and the owners are going to come out and cry poor. And they're going to try to keep free agency away from the players, and they're going to try to keep the salary cap down as much as they can. And it's still, it's still a business. It's still a single entity business model, and they don't have investors yet who are ready to take that risk. I mean, for every Manchester City or, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment or whatever, there's not, you have a Philadelphia Union that's a smaller ownership group. So, so I don't know. I'm interested. Maybe I'll have to give Ted a follow again, because it'll be interesting to see what he has to say during this during the whole process. Oh,
he definitely. If nothing, Ted is certainly entertaining when you follow him on Twitter. But like I said, the great thing about a guy like Ted is, and I know some people just don't like him, but the great thing about him is that he's passionate about this idea. I mean, he's really passionate. And it's kind of like the only thing he doesn't want to talk about, the what formation the Union put out there against the Red Bull last weekend, and if Peggy Leandula should have been on the expansion draft list or not. He wants to talk about, when is Philly being relegated to the second division, and when is Minnesota being called up, because that's all he wants to talk about. So,
well, hey, you know how it is in business. Sometimes people don't make critical decisions unless they feel threatened. And if it would be an amazing product, and it would be great. But I don't know how that transition would work. Yeah, you'd have to dissolve the league or something like that. But I would tell fans, and I tell everybody in general, just keep a close eye on the collective bargaining this offseason, because that'll sort of set the tone or tell you what the business climate is like in MLS going forward.
Right. So, Kevin, I want to thank you for taking the time out to join us tonight. We really enjoyed having you on, and we'd love to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. It was good that the expansion draft stuff just came out. It was almost like being Mel Kiper on draft day. I had a notepad here with like a list of stuff written down. It was good.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It's true. So, all right, thanks again for joining us.
All right, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Kevin.
All right,
Yep.
man. Take care.
Thank you.
And that was Emmy Award-winning writer Kevin Kinkead, who works out of Philadelphia and covers the MLS. Guys, what are your thoughts on his interview?
I thought it was great. Talked about a lot of MLS and Philadelphia Union otherwise.
Yeah. What's fantastic for me is that he could talk about pretty much any team, anytime, anywhere. It was, we took it over to Toronto. I'm not Toronto. We never got to Toronto, but, Portland and Vancouver and that whole race, that for me is the one thing I enjoy about talking to some of these guys is that they have a broad knowledge of the league and they can recall it at the blink of an eye, just like he did. And it's also nice to hear that he knew he was coming on with us. He knew we were going to talk MLS. That transfer list just came out literally, he's right, like 10 minutes before he came on the air, and he's already halfway familiar with the list. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So, Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, anything to do with the MLS, it really interests me, and I'm still learning as much as I can go because I obviously before I started doing this cup, I didn't follow the MLS at all. But I think it's really interesting, and the fact that it's still a new league. They're experimenting with a lot of things. Obviously, they do drafts and different to the transfers that I'm used to. But I find it all fascinating, and I think. The thing about American sports when they become big is there's just so much money put into sports in America, and I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it, that I really do believe that it will become something massive in America. I'm not saying it's not something massive now, but I mean it will be massive. Even in comparison to maybe the NFL and the NBA, and I mean, and all that is money and marketing, and I think you'll see. People's kids growing up with it more and more, and then before you know it, I think it will be that big, and I'm sure that at some point they'll be on level with some of the top European leagues. Absolutely.
So, I mean, again, lately we've been getting our guests in and chatting with early, and then we kind of hit our league information. So let's jump into La Liga. I'm going to throw it over to you, Rob. Let's run over the scores and the game that we predicted last week, and let's give everybody a prediction for this week.
Okay, yeah. Let me just load this up real quick and see what we can get. Okay, here we go. On Saturday, to open it up, Atletico Madrid with a 2-0 victory at Elche. Cordoba 1-0 against Atletico Bilbao. Real Madrid 3-0 against Celta Vigo, courtesy of a hat-trick from Cristiano Ronaldo. And to talk about this, I'm going to say that Cristiano Ronaldo, with this hat-trick, has broken the record for most hat-tricks in La Liga history.
That's right.
With, I believe it was 23 for Real Madrid. And there was a bit of controversy in the first goal. Obviously, it was a penalty, and the Celta Vigo defender did not even touch, I guess I'm going to say, Cristiano Ronaldo inside the box, and let's just say this for out of curiosity, I think it was a dive. It was a clear dive. If anyone was able to see the video or anything,
I actually did not see the video of this one, and I actually have the replay right now of the Espanyol Barcelona match right now that's going on TV. So I'll have to keep an eye out for it.
Oh yeah, but that's a different match as well. So
okay.
That's fine. I'll put it on chat once I finish this. Okay. 1-0 Malaga over Deportivo La Coruña. On Sunday, Sevilla 1-0 against Rayo Vallecano. In the Barcelona-Catalan derby, Barcelona 5, Espanyol 1. Espanyol opened the matchup with a 1-0 lead until a hat-trick from Lionel Messi and 2 goals from Pedro, one from Pedro, one from Piqué, to give Barcelona the upper hand. So this is quite surprising. Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi getting a hat-trick in the same weekend.
Right.
Villarreal 4 against Real Sociedad, ending David Moyes' streak as manager. Granada 1-1 draw against Valencia. And today we had a few early matches. Levante 1-1 against Getafe, and the team below Winter Football Eibar 5-2 victory against Almeria. As the table stands, Real Madrid still in first place with 36 points. In second, Barcelona with 34 points. In third, Atletico Madrid with 32 points. In fourth, Sevilla with 29 points. In fifth, Valencia with 5 points. In sixth, Malaga with 24 points. And Eibar currently in ninth, shy of 5 points from a European spot. The match of next week that I'm going to predict is going to be... Let's see here. You know what? I'm going to say this. Sevilla against Eibar. Because I think that match can show how much... If Eibar can really get some sort of victory, some kind of result, and either Malaga or Valencia slip up, Malaga hosting Celta Vigo and Valencia with Rayo Vallecano, if those two slip up, then you could see Eibar really edging close to a European spot. And as much as Sevilla is really predicted to win this match easily, you know what, I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-2 draw, Eibar and Sevilla.
2-2 draw. That would
2-2 draw, yes.
That would be a great result for Eibar if that does come to fruition. So that's definitely going to be fun to see. So, all right, I'm going to take you over to Ligue 1 and give you guys the scores and highlights from the previous week. And they actually played a double in this league, so we've got 2 sets of matches. We also have our predicted match from the week as well. So starting on Tuesday, Lorient and Marseille played to a 1-1 draw. Nantes at home losing to Toulouse 2-1. Monaco, a 10-man Monaco, by the way, with a 2-0 victory over Lens. Montpellier at home losing 2-0 to Saint-Etienne. Metz and Bordeaux played to a 0-0 draw. These are all Wednesday matches. Nice 2-1 loss to Rennes at home. Bastia losing 2-1 at home to Evian. Guingamp 5-1 home winners over a 10-man Caen. And Lille drawing PSG on Wednesday afternoon 1-1, which is a great result for Lille as they had been really faltering as of late. Moving on to Thursday, we had Lyon with a 2-1 victory over Reims. On Friday, we had Toulouse losing at home 2-0 to Monaco. On Saturday, PSG 2-1 over Nantes, and that was our game of the week. Alejandro Bedoya scoring in that one. I believe also 2 goals from Zlatan Ibrahimovic in that match as well. We also, I believe I had predicted this one a 3-0 victory, so we got the over 2.5 right, as Ben likes to say, and I had the right winner, so I actually got one right this time. Rennes losing at home 4-0 to Montpellier. Saint-Etienne 1-0 home victory to Bastia. Bordeaux 3-2 over Lorient at home. Caen losing on the road 3-2 to Nice. And on Sunday we had Evian losing at home 3-2 to Lyon. Lens and Lille played to a 1-1 draw, and Reims losing at home to Guingamp. And last match of the week, Marseille, Gignac scoring in this one 3-1 over Metz. Going into the upcoming week, and the match of the week that I'm going to pick is Monaco versus Marseille. Obviously, Marseille leading the way currently. They've only lost 1 match in their last 6. But this Monaco side has really been playing well as of late. 2 wins in a row coming into this one. They're overall in their last 6, 2 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws. The loss coming on the road 2-0 to Rennes. So this is going to be my game of the week, and Marseille is only currently 1 point ahead of PSG in the league for that top spot, but I think this is going to be the other spot where Marseille falters. I'm going to actually, and I don't like picking draws, but I'm going to pick a 1-1 draw in this one, with Monaco really starting to play well as of late, and Marseille battling it out for the top spot in the league. I think they could easily slip up here on the road, so I'm going to take a 1-1 draw in this one. Let's head over to the tables, and then I'll send it over to Ben for the Bundesliga. Leading the way, again, the aforementioned Marseille on 38 points. PSG, 1 point back on 37. Lyon in third place on 33 points. Saint-Etienne in fourth on 32. Bordeaux in fifth on 31 points. Rennes in sixth on 28 points. Monaco on 26 points. Then tied for eighth are Montpellier and Nantes on 24 each, and 10th place is Reims on 22 points. Propping up the bottom of the table, we have Bastia, losers of 4 of their last 6 on 14 points. Caen also losing 4 of their last 6 on 14 points as well. Lens just inside that relegation window on 15 points. Lorient on 17 points. Guingamp and Lille on 18 points each. Evian and Metz on 19 points each, and then Toulouse on 20, and 11th place at the bottom of the table, Nice on 21 points. So there you have it for Ligue 1. I'm going to throw it over to Ben for the Bundesliga.
Yep, we go for the Bundesliga. There was a Friday game. Borussia Dortmund beating Hoffenheim 1-0, which has taken Borussia Dortmund off the bottom of the table, but they're still 9 points away from Europa. And then on to Saturday, we had Borussia Mönchengladbach beating Hertha Berlin 3-2. We had Hanover losing 3-1 at home to Wolfsburg. Stuttgart losing 4-0 at home to Schalke. Paderborn and Freiburg playing out a 1-1 draw. Cologne losing 2-1 at home to Augsburg. And surprisingly, not surprising, and the game of the week, the Saturday evening game, the one that I picked was the Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen game. I actually went for 2-0 to Bayern Munich, but it was actually 1-0 Bayern Munich. As far as the stats goes for the game, 65 possession, 5% possession for Bayern Munich, and 9 shots and 3 on target, and Leverkusen 3 shots, only 1 on target. A stern test really from Leverkusen. They didn't go there and lie down. They played pretty well. But ultimately, in the end, Bayern Munich restoring a 7-point advantage at the top of the Bundesliga. But like I said, Leverkusen made life difficult, really difficult, really, for Bayern Munich, especially away from home. And in the first half, Leverkusen, for me, actually were the better team. But I think, after the Ribery goal went in the second half, it was Bayern after that, and they just shut the game down, and Leverkusen couldn't really get in front after that. And if anything, Bayern Munich wasted a couple of chances, at least one, which was clear edge for me, and should have made it 2-0. But like I said, largely a one-sided first half for Leverkusen, and you don't see many teams that can go to the Allianz Arena and actually play Bayern at their own game. And for the first half, they really did. And Leverkusen actually had one that was off the line, so like I said, it could have been different. Son had a goal disallowed as well for Leverkusen. It was marginal, but for me, definitely, it was offside. But then once it's after the Ribery goal, Bayern found their feet. Rafinha's cross headed back a cross goal by Alonso, and Ribery was on hand to volley in for his 100th goal for Bayern. Actually, it took the wind out of Leverkusen's sails. And then the other chance, like I said, Thomas Muller nearly had in a second when his cross was turned onto his own post by Bernd Leno, before Lewandowski missed a chance from only a few yards out, actually, which you wouldn't expect him to volley him wide for an open goal. But I think the thing you're going to take from this is that it's really close for the Champions League places in this league. Like we've said, I think top spot's too far for anybody. But I think Leverkusen proving that they're going to be there or thereabouts. And for me, I expect Leverkusen to get a Champions League place this year. And obviously Bayern continue to storm the league, 7 points clear and still unbeaten. And if we just take a little look at the league before we go on to the preview game, Bayern Munich still unbeaten, 11 wins, 3 draws. Have actually only still conceded 3 goals after 14 games, which is quite incredible. But they're 7 points clear of Wolfsburg in second on 29. And now Wolfsburg have opened up a 5-point gap to third place, which is Augsburg. The surprise team of the year for me, really. I mean, everybody expects Augsburg to be in and around the middle of the table, not really to make much noise. But after 14 games coming up to halfway through the season, they're actually on 24 points in third, and they're actually the only team to have not drawn a game in the whole division. Bayern Leverkusen in 4th place on 23 points, and then Schalke and Gladbach also on 23 points. And all 3 teams actually have the same goal difference, but Bayer Leverkusen and Schalke have scored more goals, but actually have the same goal difference, exactly 25 and 18 against. But I'm not actually sure what Bayer Leverkusen are above. I think they're above on the alphabet, actually. Going to the outside places from Europa, we have Eintracht Frankfurt on 21 points, 2 adrift, and then Hoffenheim in 8th on 20 points, 3 outside the Europa League places. As far as the bottom of the league goes, like I said, Dortmund off the bottom now, Stuttgart rock bottom of the table on 12 points, and we have Werder Bremen and Freiburg on 13 points, and then Hertha Berlin and Borussia Dortmund on 14. And then we have Hamburger and Cologne up at 15. But it's quite a close division. But like I said, Dortmund's still 9 clear of any European place, and they need to put a run together. As far as the game of the week for me is going to be the surprise team of the year, like I said. Augsburg at home to Bayern Munich. This is on Saturday the 13th. Augsburg, 12 points adrift of Bayern Munich. But sitting in third, like I said, only 1 point clear though, 4th, 5th and 6th. Like we said before, and like we said many times on the show, I think Bayern's going to win the league. It doesn't take a no crystal ball to predict that really. But as far as Augsburg, I really want to give them a bit of credit. The real surprise package this season, and I was actually having a look just to give you an idea before this game at the odds for this division, and even now they're still pipping Augsburg to be mid-table. At the beginning of the year they were 15th or 16th, so it just gives you an idea of how well they're actually doing. Augsburg at home, interestingly, played 6 games and they've won 5, so they're not an easy team, to beat at home. And I think Augsburg, I don't think they'll be challenging for the Champions League, but who knows, they could maybe make the Europa League place in such an open league. But Bayern, have only conceded 1 goal away, only 3 total, and you can't really look past them in any game in this division for me. And as clinical as this Augsburg team are, I don't see any other result apart from a Bayern win. I don't think it's going to be a beat down by any margin. I think it'll be a close game, but I just think that as soon as Bayern break through, Augsburg will get caught on a break somewhere near the end, so I'm going to go for 2-0 Bayern.
Okay. All right. So that'll do it with the Bundesliga for us for this week. Let's head over to Italy and call up the Serie A fixtures that we had. I'm noticing I'm on the wrong page. So let's hit these up quickly. Starting on Friday, Fiorentina and Juventus, which was, I thought it was our match of the week. Let me just double check. I could be wrong. Yes, it was. Played to a 0-0 draw. On Saturday, Roma and Sassuolo played to a 0-0 draw. Torino and Palermo played to a 2-2 draw. On Sunday, Napoli and Empoli played to a 2-2 draw. There is a theme here. Parma with a 2-1 loss to Lazio. Genoa 1-0 over AC Milan. Atalanta 3-2 over Cesena. Udinese 2-1 over Internazionale. And then there were games played today. Chievo 2-0 over Cagliari on the road, and Sampdoria continuing their success during the season, 3-1 over Chievo. I'm sorry, not over Chievo. 3-1 over Verona. Like I said, the match of the week was the Juventus-Fiorentina match. I had chosen a 2-1 victory for Juve. I was quite wrong in this one. Shots in this one were 10-9 in favor of Juventus. Juventus did not hold the possession, which I think is the first time this year this hasn't happened. 52-47% on the possession. So nothing really exciting to scream about here. Nobody hit the post. Obviously no goals scored. There were a few yellow cards handed out. Then everybody went on their merry way. So not much to go over there. So leading up into the coming week, I hadn't had a chance to look over it yet, but this one's an easy match to pick. Juventus at home to the upstart Sampdoria side. So I am going to take Juve to win at home 2-0. Usually at the Old Lady they don't lose very often. So it's going to be an easy one to take Juve on that one. So let's head over to the tables quickly. Juventus still leading the way with a missed opportunity from Roma. Juventus on 35 points. Roma in second place on 32 points. Genoa in third place on 26. Sampdoria on fourth place in 25 points. Napoli making a little bit of a charge on 24 points. They have not lost a match in their last 6. Lazio in sixth place on 23 points. AC Milan and Udinese tied for 7th on 21 points. Fiorentina on 20 points. And Sassuolo in 10th place on 19 points. Propping up the bottom of the table, lowly Parma, who's really starting to look like they're going to be relegated at this point. They're only on 6 points, 2 wins, no draws, 12 losses. Cesena on 8 points. Cagliari in the last relegation position on 11 points. Chievo on 13 points, tied with Torino. Atalanta on 14 points, tied with Verona. Empoli on 15 points. Inter on 17 points, losers of 3 of their last 5. And top of the bottom of the table would be Palermo, 18 points. They have not lost a match in their next 6. So Juve 2, Samp 0 is what I'm going with for my prediction for the week. So Ben, I'm going to send it back over to you, and you can give us the Premier League rundown.
Yep, we had 2 sets of games in the Premier League and a Monday night game, so you have to bear with me whilst I go through all these scores. But the game I picked was one of the midweek games, so we're going to go back to the results after I've finished the review. But yeah, to start off the Tuesday game, Burnley drawing 1-1 at home to Newcastle. We had Leicester losing 3-1 at home to Liverpool. Manchester United beating Stoke 2-1 at home. Swansea beating QPR 2-0. Crystal Palace losing 1-0 at home to Aston Villa. And West Brom losing 2-1 at home to West Ham. On the Wednesday games, we had 4 games. We had Everton drawing 1-1 at home to Hull. We had Sunderland losing 4-1 at home to Manchester City. We had Arsenal beating Southampton 1-0. And as far as the game of the week, I picked the London derby, the Chelsea-Tottenham game. I predicted 2-0 before the game. It was actually 3-0 to Chelsea. Surprisingly, Chelsea with 39% of the possession in this game and Tottenham with 61%. As far as the shots went, it was Chelsea with 12 and 8 on target, and Tottenham with 10 and 2 on target. Ruthless Chelsea it was in this game, as we expected for the game. Extended Tottenham's torment at Stamford Bridge and their poor form really for me this season. A 3-0 win that saw Mourinho's unbeaten Blues at this time consolidate the lead at the top, like I said at the time. Spurs were bidding for a first win at West London since February 1990, and actually Harry Kane hitting the bar early, and they thought maybe they could go on, maybe they could get something, but you kind of felt that the visit had to take something early, especially with how clinical this Chelsea team has been, and the failure to do so was punished by 2 goals in 4 first half minutes, Eden Hazard and Didier Drogba. Both Hugo Lloris mistakes. If you get to see him, the first one squirming under his body, and the second one was a poor clearance that was then brought back into play and a subsequent goal. And then a substitute look, Remy embarrassed Vertonghen really in netting the Chelsea third, and it turned out to be a comfortable victory. When it got to 2-0 Chelsea, I think this is why the percentage numbers look a bit skewed. At 2-0 Chelsea, they kind of sat back, played defensive, and tried to catch Spurs on the break, so Tottenham did have a lot of possession, but effectively the game was over, and Spurs really, they lacked energy if you get a chance to see the highlights. But obviously since then Chelsea lost 2-1 to Newcastle, and Spurs lacklustre at home with a 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace. But the title race hotting up, with City closing to within 3 points and Tottenham 4 points of Champions League places, and not really looking threatening. I think we saw in this particular game though that there's definitely a massive gap. I mean, Tottenham really didn't look that great, against the Chelsea team. I know this Chelsea team is really good at home, but they really didn't offer that much. But something interesting I saw on Twitter, I don't know if you guys got to see this, there was a few polls going around about the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, and it's comparing De Gea and Hugo Lloris and Courtois, and I know that Lloris was picked over De Gea, and I think Lloris, it was close between Lloris and Courtois. And, Hugo Lloris, I mean, no one doubts he's a great goalkeeper, but I just wanted to speak to you guys and what you thought about this, obviously with the Twitter poll, which is something we could talk about. But as far as best Premier League goalkeepers goes, or, top 3 or 4, should we say, obviously he had a bad game there, he made a couple of mistakes, but how do you guys rate him? Rob, what do you think of Hugo Lloris?
No, I think he's a great goalkeeper. Obviously, he's performing and doing well at Spurs, and I'm not surprised if I regard him as one of the top 10 goalkeepers in the world. Maybe even to go a little bit further, top 5.
Joe?
Yeah, I definitely like Hugo Lloris. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper. I'm not 100% convinced I want to put him in the top 5. Obviously, Courtois, De Gea, if you got a chance to watch the Man United game today, was unbelievable from what I saw, the few minutes that I did see. He's really growing into that world-class keeper. So I would like to put De Gea in that list. I know that if I don't put Joe Hart on this list, SirBob will have me tarred and feathered at this point, and then dragged into the street and shot. So I'll put Joe Hart on the list. But if I'm going to have to put Joe Hart on the list, I have to put Tim Howard, although he's been off form as of late, in my opinion. Certainly a little bit of a hangover from the World Cup. And then, not for nothing. I mean, Lloris is fantastic, but I think a guy that doesn't get enough credit for being a fantastic goalkeeper, and it's because his team is so terrible in front of him, is the Schmeichel kid over at Leicester City. I mean, Ben, what are your thoughts on him? Because I think we should really consider that guy for top 5 in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, Kasper Schmeichel, I still think he's he needs a bit more Premier League experience for me, definitely. But definitely, there's potential there for him to be, a lot better team than Leicester. I definitely think that he'll at some point be moved on to a bigger team, and I definitely think there's a decent chance that there's Champions League in his future. But just my opinion on Hugo Lloris while we was talking about him. I don't know about you guys. I mean, Tottenham, obviously, the Premier League's a really hard league, and, there seems to be a lot more money being invested in the teams above Tottenham, should we say? Arguably bar Everton, and even then they spent a lot of money in the summer. But I just don't think that if he continues this form, because a bit like Schmeichel, I think Hugo Lloris is better than the team that he's playing for, and I think that if Tottenham continue to not get into the Champions League, then I think he definitely could be moved on, and I definitely see him going to possibly a bigger European team, or maybe even in England. I would pick him over Chesney, definitely at Arsenal. I think it's close between Hugo Lloris and Joe Hart. I'd probably take Lloris. I think he's a little bit more flexible, but I think, like I said, it was just interesting to see him make 2 mistakes in one game, and then be a poll on Twitter, and I just thought it was quite an interesting thing to touch upon. But obviously, there's loads of world-class goalkeepers in the Premier League, and it is so tough, and it can make the difference. Like Joe was saying, if De Gea is making a few saves. I know Man United didn't play great tonight, and obviously, it can be. I remember the year that Blackburn made it into Europe, and they wasn't even really a European team, and they said that Brad Friedel was worth like 16 or 17 points on his own. And if you can get a goalkeeper that can do that kind of form and that can, lift your team that much, it's absolutely massive. Even the difference 5, 6, 7 points over a season is massive. It can be the difference between you being in one section of the league and another. So it's something to touch upon. We'll round up the rest of the results, going on to the weekend results. We'll start off with the shock of the day. Newcastle beating Chelsea 2-1 at home with a sending off as well. Queen's Park Rangers beating the almighty Burnley 2-0. We had Stoke upsetting Arsenal as well, another sending off. Stoke beating Arsenal 3-2. We had Tottenham drawing 0-0 with Crystal Palace, like I spoke about, and Hull drawing 0-0 with West Brom. Liverpool drawing 0-0 with Sunderland. The last evening game on the Saturday was Manchester City beating Everton 1-0, and of course that closed the gap, and we'll run over the table in a second. Sunday games, we had West Ham beating Swansea 3-1, Swansea with another sending off, and Aston Villa beating Leicester 2-1 with another sending off. We actually had 5 sending offs this weekend, so it was quite an aggressive weekend. And like Joe just mentioned, there was one game tonight, Southampton losing 2-1 at home to Manchester United. This has obviously changed a lot of the league, and just wanted to quickly go over the league, and we're going to talk about a couple of things quickly. Obviously, leading the way, Chelsea, 36 points, but now the gap has been closed from 6 to 3 to Manchester City on 33. So obviously a 3-point gap then. And now, guys, it's 5 points back to Manchester United on 28, and then we have West Ham 27, Southampton 26 in 5th, and then Arsenal and Newcastle both on 23. Arsenal with a better goal difference on 6, and then it's Swansea on 22 points, and back to Liverpool at 21, and Tottenham at 21 as well. Finishing off the top half of the table. As far as the bottom half goes, we've got Leicester propping up the way with 10 points, the almighty Burnley on 12 points, Hull on 13 points, and then we have QPR on West Brom and Crystal Palace all on 14, and then Sunderland in 14th place on 15 points. Rob, Joe, Man United winning today up to 28 points. We have to kind of consider Manchester United now as, I don't know if I want to say favourites, but they're definitely strong contenders now for the Champions League places. I mean, if you look at the experience, the only real team with any kind of experience of the Champions League really there, other than Arsenal, which is obviously 2 spots going, is Liverpool, and Liverpool a bit far back now. Joe, Rob, obviously Man United with injuries as well. They're up to 3rd in the table. Is this Man United team going to go on a run now? Obviously, they should theoretically only get stronger with players to come back. Do you see this Man United team being in the top 4 come the end of the season?
Rob, I'll let you go first on that one. Unless we lost Rob.
I've said that Manchester United... No, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. No, fire away.
Hello? No, what was I going to say is prior to the season beginning, I did say Manchester United, we're going to come back and we're going to finish 4th, get top 4 and get Europe. So, yes, I'm going to stay with that fact and say that they're going to get top 4 at exactly 4th place in the league.
Okay. Joe?
I think Rob is right. My question is, as they start to move into this upper stratosphere of the league, having gone through what they went through last season and the total collapse, do you start to get a fear of success? I mean, in the end, I don't think so, because the majority of the people on this, majority of the players on this side won the EPL 2 years ago, so they shouldn't be unfamiliar with rising to the top. I think you're right. I think they will stay in that top 4 position. It just amazes me too. The 2 teams below them, West Ham and Southampton. You never expected those 2 to be challenging for those Champions League positions, but at this time, they are. Southampton's had a little bit of a stumble as of late. But Ben, I did catch the last 15 minutes of that Man United match earlier today, and that's a good team. That Southampton side is an excellent side. I don't think, yes, United has moved to the top 2, just below the top 2. Let's be honest, Chelsea and Man City probably are not going to be caught this season. I think we're going to see those 2 teams duke it out for the final. And also, you haven't truly heard from Arsenal yet. Liverpool, I don't think Liverpool's going to get turned back around, and Tottenham and Everton don't seem to be in the same form that they were last year. So it's going to be up to this Southampton side and maybe the Arsenal side that would challenge Man United, and I don't see that happening. Arsenal right now 5 points back of them. Southampton is only 2 points back. So, which means that they just overtook Southampton today, and we're 15 matches in, so we're, almost to the halfway point of the season. I think they'll be there. Long story short, I think they'll be there, but I think they do need to pay attention to Southampton and Arsenal sitting behind them. And now looking at 7th place, even Newcastle's kind of woken up a little bit. So, but I would say keep an eye on Southampton and Arsenal. That would challenge United for those spots, and I think they'll still remain there anyway because they have too much talent not to.
I think one thing that possibly people will look over as well is the fact that bar Chelsea and Manchester City, I think if you look at the money that's going to be spent in January, I think Man United of those teams is definitely going to be the team to spend it. I believe they've got 100 million to spend in January, and I think they're going to go out and strengthen their defence. Still, they need to go and buy a couple of defenders, and I think they'll do that. I think they'll go out and I think they'll splash the cash, and I don't think there's any reason why. Once a few players come back and they buy a few new players, to me, I think they are going to make the Champions League. I think you're going to see it. I think you're going to see Arsenal with the experience. I think they'll come back and get into the spot, and it's going to be Man United and Arsenal. Which way around is yet to be seen, but I think Manchester United should do with the experience, like I said, within the squad and the quality that's within the squad. But I agree with you. I think it'll be Chelsea and Man City. I don't think that top 2 is going to be our luck. But obviously, like I said, I think this was a crunch season for Man United. I don't think if they didn't get back into the Champions League this year, I do think it would have been hard for them to attract players in the summer. So they really do need to make this season count. Just going to run. That is everything. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to do the game of the week. Sorry. It's another derby as well. This featured match is Man United versus Liverpool this Sunday, the 14th. Like I said, Man United sit 3rd, 8 points off top, and Liverpool sit 9th, 5 points adrift of the Champions League places. We just spoke about, obviously, this Man United team picking up some form and still have a few injuries. But whichever way you look at it, they're the form team of the 2. And like we just spoke about, you have to say that they're real contenders now. As for Liverpool, guys, they're looking really poor this year. I think if Liverpool don't go out and buy a striker in January, I think you can only give Balotelli so many chances unless Balotelli picks up some crazy form coming up to the new year and throughout January. I think they're going to have to go out and buy a striker. I think they probably will anyway, because I think it's being proven now that you can't just ask, Ricky Lambert. I don't think he's quite got the quality at that level to be able to really push them deep, and get them into the Champions League places. So they really need, someone that's going to come in and score a lot of goals. And I think they're just going to go out and have to spend the money. And then obviously they've got Sturridge to come back. So for me, they need to do that if they've got a chance. As far as my prediction on the teams, with Man United having home advantage as well. Sorry, I think that gives the edge to United, obviously. But it's a derby, so anything can happen. But I think it's going to be close. And neither team really looks that impressive defensively. So I'm definitely going to go for both teams to score. But I'm going to say United to edge it and 2-1 Man United.
All right, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but this is being played at Old Trafford, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that'll do it for our European coverage for the evening. Rob, I'm going to throw it over to you to start us off on the Champions League discussion. We've got Champions League, Europa League, and then we will hit the Blackburn Banter and SirBob's ManCity Corner, and that's how we usually roll to the end. So Rob, I know we haven't had any matches played last week in terms of the Champions League or Europa for that matter, but we've got some big ones as this is match day 6 for the Champions League. So, give us an idea. What are your thoughts on the Champions League leading in? Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Well, I guess when I started to make predictions over the Champions League at the beginning, for me it was pretty expected of what's happening so far, with certain exceptions. But overall, it's been a great tournament. Yeah, we've seen records being broken, and we hope for a final good match day, and whatever happens in the draw for the round of 16, I hope it's a good one.
Do you want to should we analyze each group one group at a time? Because I know we have some groups have already been decided in terms of who wins the group, and some teams are playing to get in on tomorrow and Wednesday. So let's do group by group?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, fire away.
All right, starting off is Group A with Atletico Madrid, Juventus, Olympiacos, and Malmo. Obviously, Atletico Madrid have already advanced to the round of 16, as does Juventus, but the first place is still up for grabs, as Juventus will host Atletico Madrid tomorrow in Turin. So that match is definitely going to define who will get the top seed for their group. And obviously it means a lot if you're going to be the top seed to the second seed, because you could be probably ending up, say, you were in Juventus' situation, if they ended up losing this match or drawing this match, then you're having more of a risk of having to face a side like Real Madrid or Bayern Munich and so forth.
Right.
Do you want me to make a prediction for this match?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Actually, before you make a prediction, let's Ben, I don't know if you had any thoughts on this match to decide Group A. Obviously, Olympiacos on the outside looking in technically, and Atletico and Juve really holding their own destiny. With obviously Atletico can win the group with nothing more than a draw. Juve needing nothing more than a draw to get into the next round. So Ben, what are your thoughts first?
I believe Atletico Madrid beat Juventus 1-0. Yeah, obviously if Juventus win 2-1, if Juventus win by any margin that's not 1-0, then they're going to win the group. I think they will beat Atletico Madrid. I think it's going to be a tight game, and these are the two best teams in this group by a mile. Two teams that you would expect to go, deeper into the competition, definitely. But I think with Juventus having home advantage, I would expect Juventus to win this game. And if I was forced to make a prediction, I would say 2-1 Juventus, and I think they'll squeeze out on the fact that it goes on head to head in the Champions League, and then it will go down to how many goals scored, and obviously it'll be Juventus would have scored more goals in the two games, but like I said, it's going to be really, really close. But yeah, both these teams to go through for me.
Yeah, this game screams of the typical play for the tie match, and that's traditionally what these teams, what Juventus, as being a Juventus fan, that's traditionally what they do is they tend to play for the draw. They pack it in, they play Mourinho defense and pack it in. We go home 0-0, everybody's happy, we pat each other on the back and we all go home. There's a big part of me that thinks that that's going to happen. At the same time, though, just looking at Juve's matchup against Fiorentina, they rested Carlos Tevez. Tevez didn't come in until, I believe, pretty late in the match. I'm just going to check the box score myself now and see when he came in. Just taking a look really quick here. Tevez came in the 60th minute, so for Kingsley Coman. So, they gave him 30 minutes of play this week and gave him basically a rest. Marquisio came in a little later. They played Pirlo, but he got a little bit of a rest out of the game. The other person that subbed out was Pereira, the Uruguayan, and if I remember right, he's Uruguayan. He might be Argentinian. I can't quite remember. Pereira for Juventus.
He's Uruguayan.
He is Uruguayan. That's what I thought. So even he got out of this match, and he's been really a star as of late. So they've really been, they were able to rest some players. Alvaro Morata, who's been playing pretty well as of late, he didn't see the pitch at all against Fiorentina. So I think the Juventus side did what they had to do to at least pull out a point against Fiorentina in terms of the team that they used on the pitch and the subs that they used. But at the same time, they gave everybody a rest. So Ben, I could easily see your 2-1 going, but I think like I said, I always go back to what these teams normally do traditionally. And what do they normally do traditionally? They play for the tie. So I have a feeling they're going to just sit there and play for a tie. Wouldn't shock me if this match ended up 0-0 or 1-1. But I hope you're right, Ben, and that it is 2-1. So, Rob, I'm going to throw it back to you because we both kind of cut you off on this one. What are your thoughts here?
I'm going to say this is going to be a really close match. Obviously, if this is going to be fought for the draw, then Atletico Madrid have the upper hand with the win in hand in Madrid back in October. So, if Juventus can find their form and obviously they rested their players, which is a good thing, and can get a measly victory in Turin, then I feel like Juventus odds are in favor.
Right. So that is the hope, I guess. So we feel like in the end we're going to see Juventus first, Atletico Madrid second.
Yeah. If it's, I think either way. I think goal differential.
Yeah, I forget what the absolute tiebreakers are, and again, and I'd have to go back and check, but
I have the list.
Is it
Is it goals
how
against
is it
each
done?
other first?
I guess it would be goal difference on the head-to-head, is it? Or is it straight to
higher
goal
number of
difference
points obtained in the group matches played among the teams in question, superior goal difference, high number of goals scored in the group matches, scored away from home, etc.
Yeah, so I think Atletico has all those tiebreakers.
Yeah,
So.
here says Atletico Madrid have 14 goals in hand and 3 against. Juventus have 3. 7, 4, and 4 against.
Yeah, so Juventus can't.
Is it not head-to-head then, though?
No, so Juventus can't actually overtake with a 2-1 victory. So that, to me, that leads them even more to, possibly drop some points here. Atletico might drop some points because, they can't be overtaken. Even if Juventus takes all 3 points, they would have to win by like 6 goals.
Yep.
I thought it was down to head-to-head, but yeah, if it's goal difference, then obviously there's no chance. But if it's head-to-head, then 2 goals will be enough. But I do think there's a lot of value to coming out of these groups on top, though. So I think it really depends on what's going on elsewhere. But I don't know. I think Juventus, with a lot of the teams that are coming out as first seeds in the group, if it is the head-to-head and winning by a 2-goal margin is enough, then I think you could arguably see Juventus go for this, especially if Olympiacos are only drawing, because there's just so much value to not being drawn against one of the top teams in this group, because you don't want to be getting a Real Madrid or a Chelsea, or a Bayern Munich, coming in the second round. So obviously there's a lot of value to it.
Oh, I agree. So let's go over to Group B, Rob.
Yes, we shall. Group B, we have Real Madrid, Basel, Liverpool, and Ludogorets. Obviously, Ludogorets are eliminated from the Champions League, but Liverpool still technically have a chance to qualify for the knockout stages if they can get a win, and only a win, against Basel at Anfield on tomorrow night. Yep, tomorrow night.
That matches
tomorrow. A win would put them with 7 points, and Basel would have 6. And Real Madrid, obviously advancing, will play Ludogorets, will play nothing more. They have 15 points, 5 wins, no defeats or draws in the group.
All right. I feel like Liverpool really need to make a statement here. And they're playing at Anfield. They're going to be tough there. I feel like Liverpool is going to beat Basel and move on. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I think at Anfield, knowing that they have to win to qualify, looking like it's going to be tough for them to qualify out the league, I think they know that this is a massive, massive game for their season, really, and I think you need someone like Balotelli to step up for this kind of game. I think that if he could come good and he could score, and maybe put in a good performance, then this could be something to ignite his season. But this confidence all-time low at Liverpool. You can see it as they're defending poorly, they're attacking poorly, heads are low, the fans are low. You can just see it. It's not the Liverpool that I don't want to say that that Liverpool fans know and love, but usually you see these Liverpool games, you see, especially at Anfield, and it's usually buzzing, and it's it's a massive ground, love them or hate them. But I just this Liverpool team, there's just not much quality. Although there is quality, it just seems like the quality players, bar arguably Gerrard of late, their heads have just gone. And for me, it's going to be really, really tough for them. No Sturridge, if Balotelli doesn't fire, Sterling can't do everything in this team, and Gerrard's sitting deep. You just don't. Where's it coming from? For me, I don't think Liverpool do win this game. I think that they're both teams to score. I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to say Liverpool are going to go out.
Okay, Rob, what do you think?
You know what? I'm going to disagree with Ben and say Liverpool win this 2-0.
Oh, okay. That's pretty bold. So, all right, let's move on to Group C. We've got Bayer Leverkusen, Monaco, Zenit St. Petersburg, and Benfica. The matchups here are Leverkusen against Benfica and Monaco Zenit. I believe Benfica's out at this point, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay, yeah, because they couldn't catch any of the two teams in front of them. So, the match is Monaco Zenit. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead first?
Yes, Bayer Leverkusen with 9 points, Monaco is in second place with 8, and Zenit St. Petersburg with 7. So obviously a really close group, and we've said this previously prior to the tournament starting, that this was going to be a really hard group, hard to predict. But Bayer Leverkusen has really shown being one of the underrated clubs in all of Europe, let alone Germany. So I think that if they can get a victory against Benfica, and hopefully that Monaco and St. Petersburg just, I guess, fight for a draw, so to speak, makes Monaco go on to second, and Zenit goes to Europa.
All right, so I just lost my... So, and that's going to be interesting for a Monaco side that has been, they really started out the season in the French league kind of lackluster, but they're playing a little bit better as of late. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I think what you were speaking about earlier, I think it comes a bit more into play in this kind of situation. I think that Leverkusen they'll go out and play for the result, because obviously if Leverkusen don't and they get turned over by Benfica, there's a chance they don't win the group as well. And I just don't think they're going to do for that. So I think they're just going to go out and play their normal game. And for me, which shows that, even if Monaco win that, they're not necessarily going to get through. So I think you could see this game being quite, it's going to be tight anyway, but I think you could see it being quite, like Zenit Petersburg really coming out and Monaco playing on a break. I think they're going to keep it a bit tighter than they usually would. But I still think that this game's going to be really close. And, I think, again, this is a really tough one to call, but I think I'm going to say a draw again. I think Monaco, well, they haven't got as much going forward. They still look pretty good at the back, and they don't seem to leak many goals. So I'm going to go for 1-1 in this game, and I'm going to say Monaco and Leverkusen to go for it.
Cool. All right, Rob, take us over to the next group, which is what, Group D?
Yes, it is, Group D. We have Borussia Dortmund, Arsenal, Anderlecht, and Galatasaray, all in the order of their standings. Borussia Dortmund with 12, Arsenal with 10, Anderlecht with 5, and Galatasaray with 1, who have already been eliminated. Yeah. To end the match days, we have Arsenal traveling to Galatasaray. To basically, all they have to do is they don't
have to do anything. This group is already done.
Yeah, for that. Well, if Arsenal do not manage to get some sort of victory,
Arsenal has to win.
Arsenal has to win to at least maintain the top seed, whilst Borussia Dortmund have to also win, or at least draw.
They draw, yeah.
To get
if they draw, Dortmund beat them 2-0, didn't they? So yeah. Arsenal have to win and Dortmund have to lose, yeah.
Right. For Arsenal to overtake that last spot, but
it's going to be really hard having to play Anderlecht and Dortmund. So
yeah, so I think I think that group is going to finish the way it looks on paper right now. Dortmund first, yes. Arsenal second, Anderlecht third, and Galatasaray fourth. Let's skip over the Group E. Let's move on, because that one's going to be that's the group of death, and obviously there's plenty of drama to be had in that group for this week. So let's move over to F.
Which
is actually kind of boring.
Yeah, no one wants to know about it.
Not yet. Yeah. Okay, this Group F, this one's pretty self-explanatory. PSG, Barcelona, Ajax, and Apoel, all in order of their standings currently. PSG with 13, Barcelona with 12. Both of them already qualified. Ajax with 2, and Apoel with 1. The main story of this match, obviously, is going to be Barcelona against PSG. Whoever basically wins this match wins the first seed of the group. And even with a draw, PSG will get the first seed. So this match will be played at the Camp Nou, and really, really big match to cover. Well, one of the big matches to cover following the next 2 days. But as much as I want to be biased about this, and I will be, so even with Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming back to this PSG side, I think Barcelona can do the job at the Camp Nou and win a really close game, 3-2 to Barcelona.
Ben, what
and
do you
Barcelona
think?
win the group.
Ben?
Sorry. I think it's going to be a great game. I think is it on the exact same day as the Roma Man City game?
Yes, it is.
It
Unfortunately,
is.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I mean. I was looking at this the other week. I couldn't remember if it was on the same day, but yeah, it's kind of almost unfortunate that there's such a big game in a Roma Man City game because obviously my loyalties lie with England. So that would be the game I'd be watching. But this game is going to be really exciting and an awesome game with tons of quality. I mean, any game Ibrahimovic plays in is awesome, and obviously this Barcelona team's got, is brimming with talent. And like I said, two teams, and like Rob said, two teams playing for first spot, and like we spoke about before, first spot, neither of these teams wants to play the teams coming out of this group in first, because otherwise your coming out second round game could be a game that you'd be expecting to play that team possibly in the final. So for me, it's going to be a close game. Like I said, both great teams, and I don't see either team keeping a clean sheet here for me. And it's kind of unfortunate for PSG as well, because this PSG is a real decent team, but I just don't think you're going to go to the new camp, and I just can't see PSG getting a draw, although it will be really, really close. I'm going to say 2-1 Barcelona.
Okay. Joe, what do you think?
With this match, well, I mean, like I said, the Camp Nou, that Messi guy seems to have found his form lately, hasn't he? I mean, hat trick over the weekend, hat trick last outing in the Champions League to break Raul's record for scoring in the Champions League for goals. I think he's kind of found his form. This one stinks to me like a 3-1 Barcelona victory. Not saying that Lionel Messi will score all 3 goals, but I think he will definitely have a hand in at least 2 of them. But I think it's going to be tough to keep Zlatan off the score sheet. So I'm going to say it would be a 3-1 Barcelona victory, and then PSG gets relegated to the second place, and then going to end up having to play somebody like Bayern Munich or Chelsea, like what everyone else's fear is. So I think we're going to get a fantastic quarterfinal matchup or round of 16 matchup coming out of whoever PSG has to face.
Yep, I agree. All right, Group G.
Group
G, we have Chelsea, Sporting Lisbon, Schalke, and Maribor. Maribor has been eliminated already, so this one is going to be a. But I think this league is. I think this group has already been won. If Chelsea will be playing Sporting Lisbon, obviously that should be a win given in Stamford Bridge. And I guess the match for that group will be Maribor against Schalke in Slovenia. So if Schalke can get a victory, they will qualify for as the second seed, given Chelsea do not screw up against Sporting Lisbon in that match as well.
And that's Roberto Di Matteo's side that he took over recently. That Schalke side, Di Matteo's in my opinion, I think he's a good manager. Okay. You've got to also remember Di Matteo was the guy at the helm when Chelsea won the Champions League a couple of years ago. So this guy knows how to win in this competition. I think you're right. I think Chelsea's probably not going to let off the gas much. They have too much quality on that side to do that. Mourinho's not that kind of guy, so I think Chelsea's going to easily clean up Sporting Lisbon, and then Schalke should be able to take care of Maribor, and you're going to see a Chelsea-Schalke first and second place. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Chelsea haven't lost a game in the Champions League. They've only let in 2 goals. I think you'll see Chelsea dispose of Sporting, and I think Schalke will beat Maribor, and they'll go through in second. This Schalke team's pretty decent, but I think expect Chelsea to go really, really deep in this competition. But still, this Schalke team's no pushover, and in the round of 16, I believe no one's really going to look forward to playing Schalke, and I think they'll give most teams a decent game.
Yep. All right. The final group. Well, one of the final groups. We have Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, Bilbao, and Barat Borisov. Obviously, this group is basically. whatever happens, this is literally self-explanatory. Porto have 13, Shakhtar Donetsk with 8. Even with the win for Shakhtar Donetsk against Porto, they still wouldn't be able to oversee the first seed, given the losses and draws that they have. But this could still be the chance for Athletic Bilbao to get the victory against Bate Borisov in Bilbao to qualify for Europa, pretty much. Nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. And that's going to be the thing to watch in this particular group is can Athletic hold on to that Europa position? Where is that match being played, Rob? Is that in Spain or is that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is in Bilbao.
So yeah, there is still a prize. When you end up with these third place, fourth place matches, you still have a prize at the end of the tunnel there. For a team that wants to get into the Europa League, and the Europa League would be great for Bilbao at this point. So. And they're a quality side. I think they're going to be able to pull it off against Bate as well. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, is it being played? Did you say it's being played at Athletic? It is, isn't it? Yeah.
In Spain, yep.
Yeah, I mean, this Bate team there, this is the thing that amazes me. I know I was looking at the last time. It's Belarus, isn't it? Yeah. Such a small team. Like, it amazes me that this team came out and they qualified and they got to the group, the first round proper, and how awesome it must be for them to be there. I mean, you can see that, they've been, apart from the one game that they beat Athletic, they got beat 7-0, 6-0, 5-0, 3-0. It seems to me almost like the Belarus, when you see them in the World Cup qualifying, they're a little bit out of the depth. But that being said, if they can cause an upset at Bilbao and go into the Europa, I still think that they would be, it would still be a dream for them. But that being said, I don't see it happening. I do think Bilbao will get the result they need, and it will be Bilbao going in Europa, and obviously Porto and Shakhtar going through to the next round.
Okay. All right. And the last group of them,
let's go back to it.
Yep. Group E: Bayern Munich, Roma, CSK Moscow, and Manchester City. Now, SirBob, if you're listening, you probably want my neck by now if I'm going to say this. Obviously, Bayern Munich have advanced already to the round of 16, but that doesn't mean the second spot is literally up for hands either way. Roma plays Manchester City at Rome in the final group match, as Bayern will play CSK Moscow. This is the situation. If CSK Moscow can win against Bayern Munich and Roma and Manchester City hold to a draw, CSK Moscow qualify. If Roma beat Manchester City, then they qualify. If Manchester City beat Roma, then they qualify. But this is the after the dramatic victory, even against Bayern Munich, because of that man that scored the penalty. You won't have him for that match,
right?
Which is obviously a big blow for Manchester City, and I think that he was one of the main reasons coming into that match beforehand, that he was going to revamp this Manchester City side and get the victory in Rome. But with this injury, now their odds have gone to literally high expectations to low expectations. So unless Manchester City can really, really prove an upset with the depth that they have up front with Dzeko, Nazari, Navas, etc., Yaya Toure, this match, if I wanted to make a bet here and say this, Roma is going to get the victory at Rome, but only if Manchester City can get the upset in Italy.
I think SirBob stroked out, but this game would have been 100 times tougher to call if Sergio Aguero were there and healthy.
Yes.
Because it's going to be tough to play in Rome. I don't think it's going to be easy, because it's not. But having said that, Roma is pretty healthy. They've got Kevin Strootman back now. They're playing reasonably well, although they did drop some points earlier this week. They dropped the 2-2 draw to, I can't remember who it was, but they had a 2-2 draw earlier in the week, and they are actually down 2-0 in that match. So, I'm feverishly efforting the score in the teams as we speak. So they did drop some points this week, but overall they're still playing very, very well. They're pretty healthy to come into this match, and I think at that point with no Aguero, they're gonna they're going to have all sorts of trouble. Oh, they tied Sassuolo. Sassuolo has been playing incredibly well as of late. They're 3 wins and 3 draws in their last 6 matches. That record's actually better than Juventus at this point. So, the only team that's probably doing even better than them is Genoa, who's moved into 3rd place. So Sassuolo's playing well. Simone Zaza's playing well for them. So it's no shame in drawing that match. But I think also Roma's probably looking at that Sassuolo match this past Saturday saying, you know what, let's not worry about Sassuolo too much because we've got a much bigger fish to fry on Wednesday in Manchester City, especially now that there's been the injury too. And I'm just looking over the score here to see who played and who did not play. And let's see here. DeSantis played in goal for them. Florenzi played. Manolas played. Holebas played. Strootman got some time in, although he was subbed out. Nyangolan subbed in, so he got some rest. Gervinho got some rest in this one as well. Iturbe got some rest. Pjanic got some rest as well. Mattia Destro, who hasn't been playing a ton as of lately, played the full match here, probably to get ready. Zaza scored 2 goals against him. So this is a good Napoli team that, in my opinion, is playing fairly well. And City, although City is playing well, losing a guy like Sergio Aguero is just absolutely brutal for them, and I don't think it's going to be something they can overcome. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to jump on the bandwagon. I think Man City go out. I actually think that they lose this game and they finish bottom of the group at the same time. I think it's not even. I mean, obviously Aguero, massive loss. I mean, and like you said, it would have been easier to predict with him there, but I think also Pellegrini has said that Jovetic is out as well, and also Dzeko's not 100% fit. There might be fitness problems with Company as well, and David Silva's got a knee problem. To me, you take that many players out of that Man City team and you chuck them into a Roma team that are playing for the exact same thing at home. I can't see Man City overcoming that big an obstacle. If you had this, to me, we spoke about this at the beginning of the season, about Negredo, saying, why didn't they keep Negredo? If something happened, Negredo's a big strike. You can play him up front on his own if you had real problems. And they needed him now. This is when he would have came in and you said, okay, look, we've got injuries. We need someone to play up top on their own. We need a big, strong guy who can score goals. And I know he was a bit out of form, but you would have chucked Negredo in there and you said, okay, they got a glimmer. But for me, now, with the lack of strikers and Silva out as well, I can't see it. I think Roma win this. As far as the scoreline, I'm going to say 2-0 Roma. I think Roma will score at some point and Man City will have to come forward and they'll get caught on the break. And I expect Roma to win this 2-0. And I think Man City will finish bottom of the group and will have no Europa either.
All right. So that's going to cover it for the Champions League. We'll have to see how things turn out, and with the round of 16 will bring us, and we'll certainly hit it all up on next week's show. We'll cover the matches and bring you all the highlights, and then try to play God and figure out which results or which matchups we want to see in the next round, which are the most exciting matchups we'd like to see in the next round. So we'll definitely bring you something like that coming next week. So let's head over to the Europa League, the forgotten little brother, I guess, of the Champions League. We've got a couple of big matches going on here. I don't know, Ben, have you looked at this at all?
Yeah, I had a look at the Europa League. Obviously, same again. This is the last matches of the group. I picked out two games and a group that I thought were interested. Firstly, let me just double check which group it is. I believe it's Group A. Yeah. In Group A, we have Mönchengladbach versus Zurich, and this is first versus third. And obviously, if you look at this, it's 9, 8, and 7. So all 3 of these teams can qualify for the next round. But with Mönchengladbach at home, and they've been quite decent in the German league, just in Europa place, but only 1 point from the Champions League. And I think this team at home is going to be favourite over this FC Zurich team, who have played well. But I do think Mönchengladbach get the win here 2-1. They're going to qualify as group winners for me. And that'll put Villarreal through in second because I think they'll dispose of Zurich.
Yeah, they
I
should.
don't know if you guys have got any opinions on that group A.
Well, Villarreal's playing Apollon, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. I mean, they are, but I don't think that result's going to make a difference because I think Mönchengladbach know they need to win, and I think they're going to beat Zurich at home, and then Villarreal on 8 points, regardless, will go through in second.
I would agree. I would agree with you on this one. Yeah, Gladbach's going to definitely play Zurich tough, and Gladbach's a good side. They're really performing well in the Bundesliga, and Villarreal's going to dispose of the Greek side pretty quickly. So, Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So a pretty easy group to call. Next group is Group B. Club Brugge leading the way right now with 9 points. Torino in second place. HJK in third with 6 points. And Copenhagen in last place with 4 points. Just going to see if I can find the matches here. Club Brugge is playing HJK. So that means that Torino and Copenhagen, that match is going to be in Copenhagen, which that's not going to be an easy out for Torino, but they're not playing poorly themselves as of late. I think Torino probably moves through, and the Club Brugge match, I'm wondering where that match is myself now.
It's at Club Brugge. It's exactly the same scenario from the last group. I think Club Brugge are playing HDK in Bruges as well, so I think Bruges will beat HJK, and then I think Torino go through in second.
Yeah, because if Bruges win, actually Torino can go through with a loss. So yeah, I think you're right. Club Brugge and Torino move through on this one. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that one's a pretty. I don't want to say it's an easy one to call, but it's not a difficult one to call. That's for sure. So, Group C. Do you want to do that one, Ben?
Yeah, it's. At the moment, it is Besiktas and Tottenham in European places. Tripolis and Partizan Belgrade are already out, and obviously 2 places. Tottenham on 11 points, Besiktas on 9, but this is actually at Besiktas. So Besiktas with the chance to win the group. If they can beat Tottenham, they've got everything. They might as well go out and play this for the win, because obviously a loss still means they go through, and obviously you want to be seeded going into the next round. This is going to be a really tough game. I mean, this Besiktas team are no walkover. They're definitely the second best team in the group for me. I do think this Tottenham team are better than Besiktas, but I think with the home advantage for Besiktas, it's going to be a tight game. I don't think that Tottenham are going to go there expecting that they'll get an easy game, but I think it's going to be tough. And I think, like I said, this Besiktas team. Usually, if it was a one-off game and it was earlier in the league stage, I would say a draw. Mm-hmm. But I think that Besiktas are going to come out and just throw the kitchen sink at it, because they know they've got absolutely nothing to lose.
Right.
And because of that, Tottenham are going to catch them, and they're going to end up losing this game. But it's going to be a close game. It'd be an interesting game to watch. But if I had to predict the game, I think that I would say 2-1 Tottenham.
Yeah. I would agree with you there. I think the Besiktas side is a pretty good side, but Tottenham, with their experience from the EPL coming into this, they tend to do well. They haven't lost a match in this league as of yet either. So I think I would agree with you. I think a 2-1 Tottenham result sounds appropriate. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Tottenham have the upper hand on that group.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see, Group D. I'll take this one real quick, I guess, guys. I'll take this one because it's easy. Salzburg, Celtic. Astara and Dinamo Zagreb. This group is decided as is, gentlemen. Salzburg on 13 points. Celtic on 8 points, who cannot catch Salzburg. Astara on 4 points, who cannot catch Salzburg. And Dinamo just 1 point behind Astara, but it doesn't really matter. So 4 matches, or the 2 matches in that group, really kind of a snoozer. I don't even think we need to talk about them. Both teams are moving on as scripted. So the same can be said for Group E. Mm-hmm. So, it's amazing these groups are already decided. Dinamo Moscow, 15 points. They're perfect 5 for 5. PSV Eindhoven in second place on 8 points. Estoril in third place on 4 points. And Panathinaikos in last place on 1 point. I'm sorry. So PSV going to move through in second place. Dinamo going to move through in first place on 15 points. Group F. It looks like we've got really one match to watch here, guys, I think, right? I'm assuming. Actually, no, they played each other last week. This one bears watching. Inter's already won the group, 11 points. FK Karabakh and Saint Etienne are both tied on 5 points, and Dina Pro's in last place on 4 points. So Dnipro's been eliminated because Karabakh is going to be playing. I'm just taking a look here. Karabakh plays Inter and Saint Etienne plays Dnipro. I mean, this Inter side is really still trying to find their identity after having being taken over by Roberto Mancini, but still, in terms of quality, a fantastic side. You know, and then we go back and look at the other teams here. Saint Etienne is going to end up playing the last place Dnipro team. The one thing I want to look at real quick is where they're playing that match, because Saint Etienne is always a nightmare at home. And I just looking quickly. Saint Etienne is on the road on this one, so Dnipro does have a chance to knock them off. Guys, Rob, I'm going to go to you first. What are your thoughts? Do you think Saint Etienne will get the results they need? Now, Saint Etienne has not lost a match. They haven't won a match. They've only scored 2 goals, and they've only given up 2 goals. They are 5 draws on 5 matches. Can they break that streak against Dnipro and actually get a victory?
Yes, I do think so, and with that, they'll advance to the knockout stage.
And they'll advance ahead of Karabakh. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think Saint Etienne, they've got the experience for me, better team than Dnipro, and also more experience than Karabakh. I think they'll go through in second place within them.
Okay. So the next group is, let's see, Feyenoord, Sevilla, Rijeka, and Standard Liège. Feyenoord is going to be playing, where'd it go here? Feyenoord is going to be playing Rijeka, and I believe Sevilla is going to be playing Standard Liège. Let me see that one more time.
It's Sevilla playing Rijeka.
You're right. I'm sorry. Sevilla playing Rijeka. Okay, let me get back to the group stages here. Sevilla playing Rijeka and Standard Liège Feyenoord. So Feyenoord is going to go through no matter what. And Standard Liège has been eliminated. So that Sevilla Rijeka match is the one. Guys, I've got to think Sevilla has enough quality on their side to move through on this one. What do you guys think?
Yep, I agree as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Sevilla team at home as well. I'd say 2-0 Sevilla.
Okay, now I guess the next question is, and I'm just looking for the result here quickly. Feyenoord on their last outing at home beat Standard Liège 2-1. Do they win this match and win the group?
Feyenoord, it's at Standard Liège, yeah?
Yes, it is.
You know, this Standard Liège team it's just been quite a close group, really, going throughout. You know, there's not too much difference between top to bottom. But, you know, close is going to be quite close. And, you know, I think there's a possibility Liège can get something from this game, considering, once again, they haven't really got much to lose. But since they can't qualify, I wouldn't be surprised if Liège rest a few players, because there's just absolutely nothing to play for. And this final team's got enough quality in it. Mm-hmm. I think those two things combined take away the fact, that Feyenoord are playing away from home. So I do think Feyenoord beat Liège. And then I think Sevilla will win as well. And I think the group will stay as it is. Feyenoord will go from first and Sevilla second.
I agree. So, guys, the next group, Group H, Everton, Wolfsburg, Lille, and Krasnodar. Wolfsburg playing Lille in this one, and I think that's the important part of this, this matchup. Everton, 11 points. They can't be caught. They will win the group. Wolfsburg is playing Lille. Everton playing at Krasnodar. But we've got a good defensive team in Lille, but they can't seem to score any goals. They've only scored 3 goals in 5 matches in the Europa League. Wolfsburg on the other side scored 11 goals, but they've given up 10. I just want to take a look and see the last time these two teams faced each other. I believe they drew
1-1, yeah.
1-1. So, and that match was in Wolfsburg. So they'll be playing in France this time. Can Wolfsburg pull it off, or actually, I guess the better question is, can Lille pull it off and beat this a quality Wolfsburg side and overtake them to move through in the group? Ben, what do you think?
I don't think so. This Wolfsburg team are a decent team. I get to look at them a lot in Germany, and the second in the group, second now, and a few points clear. They look decent. They look one of the more decent teams outside of Munich in Germany. And although this Lille team's good, I don't think they're as good as the Wolfsburg team. And I think it'll be a similar thing. Lille are going to throw the kitchen sink at it because a draw just isn't good enough. And obviously, so they're going to throw it at it. But this Wolfsburg defense is usually quite good. It kind of surprised me. They already shipped 10 goals in the Europa League. But no, I don't think so. I think they'll get caught on the break. I think Wolfsburg will probably win this game, but it'll be a close game. But I'm going to say 2-1 Wolfsburg for this. I think they'll beat Lille.
Rob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same as well. 2-1 Wolfsburg.
Okay. Group I, Man, there are a lot of groups in the Europa, isn't there? We've got Napoli, Sparta Prague. I'm sorry, Napoli on 10 points, Sparta Prague on 10 points, Young Boys on 9 points, and Slovan Bratislava on no points. They've lost all their matches. Just going to scan through here really quick. Let's see, because Slovan Bratislava is going to play Napoli. And that match is going to be... Let's see, I think that match is going to be in Napoli. Yes, it is. I'm going to double-check the schedule here. But so Napoli at home to Slovan Bratislava. You've got to think that they're going to move through. This Bratislava team has only scored 1 goal in 5 matches. They've given up 17. They've lost all 5 of their matches. Napoli going to be playing at home where they have where they beat Sparta Prague. They lost. I believe they lost. Oh, no. They beat Sparta Prague. They beat Young Boys. So they've already won 2 matches at home, and they're such a quality side. So you've got to think that Napoli is one of the teams going through. But the Sparta Prague Young Boys matchup is going to be interesting. I'm just going to see when these 2 teams last met. Sparta Prague beat Young Boys 3-1 in Sparta. So this game is going to be at Young Boys. Do you think Young Boys can pull it off, or do you think Prague is going to have enough to do this? Rob, I'll go to you first.
I think Young Boys. Wait, is Young Boys playing Napoli?
No, Young Boys are playing Sparta Prague. Napoli's playing Slovan Bratislava, which means Napoli's already through.
Yeah, I think that one's settled for Napoli. But you know what? I think I'm going to say this. Given the record that they both have, 3 wins, no draws, 2 losses, 3 wins, 1 draw, only 1 loss. I think Sparta Prague have the upper hand. To be fair,
Yep.
So I think Sparta Prague is going to win this match.
Okay, on the road, Ben, what do you think?
I think this is going to be a really tough game. This is probably one of the closest games to call. If you was trying to make predictions, I think it's going to be really, really tough, and I could really see it going either way because Young Boys they do score quite a lot of goals at home, and this Sparta Prague team are quite decent defensively. So I think it really could go any one of 3 ways. But I just think that Young Boys have to come out a bit like I've said before. They Napoli 99% chance for me that they win the group and they go through on 13 points. So Young Boys know that they have to win and they know they have to come out and they have to really last 20 minutes of the game if it's still 0-0 they really have to come out of the shell. And I just think that they're going to get caught a bit too much because they have to push the envelope. And I think once again Sparta Prague will catch them and I'm going to go for 2-1 Sparta Prague again.
Okay. All right, let's move to Group J. I think Sparta Prague is going to probably move through on this one. They've only given up 4 goals in 5 matches so far in this league, where they've had to play Napoli, and even though and of those 4 goals, Napoli scored 3 of them. So I've got to think Sparta Prague has enough defense to be able to displace Young Boys and move forward. So, and also keep in mind, Sparta Prague's they only need a draw. They don't need any more than that. So I think they'll go ahead and move through there pretty easily. But it is going to be a great match to watch. Group J, boy, like I said, this Europa League goes on forever. We'll do this quickly. Group J, we've got Dynamo Kiev on 12 points, AAB on 9 points, Steaua Bucharest on 7, and Rio Ave on 1 point. I didn't see what the matchups were on this one. So if I'm going to look through real quick, Dynamo Kiev is playing Steaua Bucharest. So if we go back down here, Dynamo Kiev, Steaua Bucharest. So that's going to be first versus third, and then AAB is going to play Rio Ave. I've got to think Kiev and AAB are going to move through just based on the fact that Kiev is well ahead of Steaua Bucharest. Not saying that they're going to win the group, but they're easily ahead of that, and AAB should be able to take care of Rio Ave. Looking at the result from the last matchup, AAB beat Rio Ave at home 1-0. So, what are your thoughts, guys? You think it's going to be Dynamo Kiev and AAB, or do you think Steaua Bucharest can make can jump in there and steal some points?
I think Steaua Bucharest are going to find it quite hard against Kiev. I think the group will stay as it is. I think you'll see Kiev and AA bigger.
I agree.
Yeah, Steaua Bucharest. I think it's Kiev and AAB as well. I'm pretty sure of that. So, Group K, Fiorentina, 13 points. They've won the group already. Guingamp and PAOK are on 7 points each, and Dynamo Minsk is on 1 point. Let's see. This stinks. I have to keep scrolling back up and down.
Yeah, it's the only important game in this group is PAOK versus Guingamp. PAOK.
And it's at PAOK. That's going to be played in Greece. That's a tough call, gentlemen. This Guingamp side is not a terrible side, but not the greatest.
A draw is good enough as well for Guingamp.
No, and a draw is good enough for Guingamp. Okay, so then, what did these guys do the last time they faced each other?
2-0 Guingamp.
2-0 Guingamp. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then you know what I would, and that was at home, so they're going to play this in Greece. I could see a 1-1 draw coming out of this one. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, 1-1 draw as well. I agree.
Yeah. So, and Ben, you're on the same page with us. 1-1 draw. Guingamp moves through.
I think it's going to be a close game. I'm not sure. This game is like silly close again. But like I said, I think the fact that Guingamp can take a draw as well. I'm not sure. I think actually, I think I'm going to take PA. I think they're going to get the result. It's going to be close though. I'm going to say 2-1 PA.
Okay. Nope. And then the last group, Group L, Legia Warsaw on 12 points, Trabzonspor on 10, Lokeren on 7, and medalist Kharkiv on no points, losing all 5 of their matches so far. And I'm not sure what the matches are here, but Trabzonspor playing Legia Warsaw. Let's go back down here now and take a look. Trabzonspor playing. Okay, so those two teams are playing for the top here. This is one of those where there's that side agreement in there. You know what I mean, guys? Where Legia and Trabzonspor says, yeah, we'll play to a 1-1 draw. We'll make it look good, and everybody goes home happy, and we both go through. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's the case on that.
I think the fact that Trabzonspor beat Lokeren, didn't they? So even if Lokeren win, they still actually can't catch Trabzonspor. So Trabzonspor have got nothing to lose. Even if they lose this game, they can't be knocked off the second place because of the heads up versus game. So for me, I think you'll just see Trabzonspor go for this. But that being said, I still don't think they're going to have enough, and I think Legia Warsaw will beat them at home.
Yeah, I think yeah.
But only because Trabzonspor, they have to come out, once again, if you've got nothing to lose, they'll roll the dice and Trabzonspor will come out. There's no point in playing as compact as they would do usually away from home, but I just think this Legia Warsaw side a little bit more quality than they have, and I think they'll catch them.
True. Currently, the goal-scoring leaders in the UEFA Europa League group stages, Allen from Salzburg on 6 goals, Harry Kane from Tottenham with 5 goals, Demba Ba at Besiktas with 5 goals, Lafata at Sparta Prague with 5 points, Soriano at Salzburg with 5 goals, Kamaric at Rijeka with 5 goals, Athanasiadis at PAOK with 5 goals, Rusescu at Bucharest with 5 goals as well. So that ought to do it for us for the Europa League, gentlemen. Let's head over. Ben, give us the update on the FA Cup, right? That Blackburn, yeah.
Well, there's 2 things. Obviously, the FA Cup draw was given out today, and Blackburn are away to Charlton. Charlton are, I believe, Charlton are 9th in the Championship, but they're a little bit below Blackburn, so that will be a tough game. Obviously, there's no easy games. Like the Championship is quite close, but obviously on paper. Well, not obviously, but on paper, Blackburn are the better team. So hopefully, I think you could maybe see a replay there, and I think Blackburn will turn them over at Ewood Park. But I would expect that Blackburn to come through being the better team. Yeah. As far as the league game this week, unfortunately, Blackburn lost this weekend at home. They lost 2-1 to Sheffield Wednesday. 2 really poor goals. First one was a keeping mistake that was spilled by the goalie, obviously, and then it was knocked in. And the second goal for Sheffield Wednesday was a wicked deflection, a shot that hit a defender and looped over the goalie. So, and that was in like the second minute of injury time. Bit of bad luck, but in fairness, we had a bit of good luck last week, so you can't really say too much about that. Blackburn did have the better chances to win the game, forcing a really good save from a volley. The Sheffield Wednesday goalkeeper made a great save and hitting the post as well, Jordan Rhodes. So it was a close game. Probably, maybe Blackburn deserved to edge it, but definitely a draw. But Blackburn, this wasn't like they were nowhere near as good as the past 10 games. But I think after 10 games, you've got to lose at some point. You're never going to stay unbeaten. Well, most of the time, you're never going to stay unbeaten. So it's just one of those days. I think they've just got to pick themselves up and go on another 10-game unbeaten streak. As far as the next game, we've got Brentford away, who are fifth in the league. They're 2 points above Blackburn. But Blackburn are now down to seventh, unfortunately, 1 point outside of the playoffs, and we've got a playoff team next. So obviously a draw will be a good result, and then move on. Because I think the three fixtures coming up to Christmas are all winnable games, and we'd like to go into the new year, obviously in the playoff spots.
Brentford coming off a 2-1 loss to Huddersfield, who's in 15th at the moment. So certainly a team that can be turned over, I'd say, don't you think? Yeah,
I mean, this Brentford team have been surprising for everybody. Then, once again, if the game was played on paper, you'd say Blackburn are the better team. There's more quality there. But this Brentford team have come up with, just really play well as a team unit. The manager's quite good. And, there's no one that you would say is outstanding quality in their team, but they work really well as a team. And I think it's gonna come down to that, really. But, if Blackburn come back out and the manager gets them playing like they know they can, then yeah, they can. And obviously, when you play against the teams in and around you, if you can, especially away from home, beat the teams in the spots that you're chasing, then obviously it's massive confidence. But yeah, like I said, going into the 3 games after this game, if we can give us some kind of platform to build so we can go into the new year in the playoff spots, then it's like I said, it'd be good to get some momentum and hopefully carry on into the playoffs going into the new year.
All right, let's head over to SirBob's ManCity Corner. I honestly, I think one of these days I'm actually going to come up with music for this segment. But it's always our last segment of the night, and it's quite a bit of sad news, I would say, right? Rob, tell us about what's going on with Sergio Aguero.
Yeah, like the unfortunate Sergio Aguero, like I said, in the first few minutes of the match against Everton on Saturday, he had a torn hamstring, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that.
I believe, let me double check the story. I think that was the correct injury. It was a ligament injury, I'm sorry, so it wasn't a hamstring. Yep. I heard it was his lateral collateral ligament, ligament of his left knee, and he could be out for up to 7 weeks.
A month. It was confirmed to him today that it was a month. But obviously, Joe, you're into that stuff. You said you were a medic or something?
I went to school for athletic training. I was an EMT, a licensed EMT, so this is kind of...
So what do you think about this?
Yeah, depending on how bad that strain is, you've got to keep an eye out for the fact that you have some muscles and blood vessels that run pretty close to that lateral collateral ligament. It's not something that they would repair surgically at the moment. They would probably put him in a brace more than anything else and let it heal on its own. But it's the kind of injury that can be difficult to come back from because of where that ligament attaches from. It helps stabilize 3 different bones in the knee joint. It helps stabilize it does connect partially to the tibia, partially to the fibula, and it connects to the femur as you go proximal to the body. So it adds all the lateral stability in the knee joint, and the knee joint itself is an absolutely terrible joint. The skeletal structure of the knee joint is terrible. It's like taking the butt ends of 2 2x4s and making you stand on top of them. So it really relies on the musculature and the ligamentous structures in the knee to give you that stability so you can do what you do. And a guy with speed and pace and strength and the ability to cut quickly like Sergio Aguero, really, this is the kind of injury that you need to take a little more time than a little less time. It says here a month. I wouldn't be shocked if it was 6 weeks, especially given his injury history, where he's been prone to injuries lately. I think you have to see him sit for a little bit longer, and by our predictions, they'll be out of Champions League and they'll be into Europa. It depends on how, and they'll probably get a pretty soft side to start in the Europa League if it goes to that level, and so if that's the case, I think. I think Sergio's got the time to be able to take some time off. It's going to be tough to catch Chelsea anyway. They stumbled this weekend. They're going to need to stumble at least 2 or 3 more times in the season before you can really say you have a shot at catching them. So I think if the staff at City is smart about this, they take it easy with him, they slow him down and make sure he's fully fit and healthy coming back into the season. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it earlier. I think that in the Champions League, I think it's all but over, really. And, there's still some world-class players. It's never over to the Fat Lady Sings, but obviously it's against them in the Champions League, like we spoke about. As far as the league goes, I agree with you, Joe. I think, back, it could be a massive blow further on down the year. I think this Chelsea team's going to have to stumble a lot, and I think they've got a lot more quality than the teams below that are chasing them, the Uniteds, the Arsenals. And, they've still got Jovetic and Dzeko in this team, two world-class strikers still, so, you just play those two up top and, you hope they do the job. And, Dzeko's proved that he can do that before. Jovetic is, he stepped up to the mount as well, so there's no reason why they can't. They're still going to get as much creativity as what Aguero's would be given, and they're just going to have to, do as good a job as they can and soldier on. And, I'm sure Pellegrini would have explained that to them, and I'm sure they'll know that anyway. But,
I'm just going to read this. There's a little tidbit I want to add in here before you move on. This is directly from the article. I'll read it word for word. With City traveling to Roma for Wednesday's crucial Champions League game, Manuel Pellegrini has urged his team to win without Aguero, but the Chilean now faces a striking crisis with Stefan Jovetic, who would normally start instead of Aguero, a doubt because of hamstring problem, while Edin Dzeko is not 100% fit following a calf injury. So they are, going back to what you said about Negredo, they are really hurting up at the striker position. Yeah.
This is what I said earlier on. This is why I can't see them beating Roma. I mean, they haven't got any fit strikers yet. Well, I mean, Dzeko's not 100% fit. He can play, but it's not going to be a fully fit Dzeko, and there's no one else. Obviously, they're probably going to play either Dzeko one up top on his own, or bring someone up through the reserves. But like we said, we spoke about this earlier. They've only got 3 strikers at City, to my knowledge. 3 world-class strikers, and you need 4. In a division that's this big, and not only that, if you're playing to win as many trophies as what Man City are, I mean, you look at them. I mean, even if you discount the League Cup, they're still challenging. Well, they're still challenging on the Champions League front, on the Premier League front, on the FA Cup front, and this is not just challenging. This is challenging to win all 3 trophies. And if you're going to seriously challenge on 3 fronts, you can't just have 3 strikers, because as soon as you get an injury, you've got no one on the bench to replace the players when it comes to the last 15-20 minutes of a game, or if you want to change it and go 3 up top. And you need that 4th striker. Okay, it doesn't have to be as strong as the first 3 strikers, but you need that 4th striker, and I think not having that 4th striker is going to cost them. Mm-hmm. And but like I said, I wouldn't be that surprised with the fact that if Aguero's out for 7 weeks, and also he's going to have to come back to fitness after that, so maybe a couple more. So you're looking probably at 2 months. 2 months is going to take us over and past January. So don't be surprised if Man City in the January when they go out and buy a striker.
Right. Also, they're worried about the health of Vincent Kompany going into this match against Roma with a hamstring problem. Rob, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, it's a really big blow for Manchester City, having to lose all these key players going into this big match against Roma. So, unless we, in the good side of what the Champions League is able to give us, we can expect a shot. Manchester City can actually get the victory with these so-called players. Right. If not, then this is going into Roma's favor. A good 70-30 to be exact.
Yeah, I would agree. So
maybe a bit more.
Let me just hopefully we'll know more. We'll know more coming into the week and see if they can get some of those semi-healthy players on the pitch in Rome. But it certainly doesn't look good for them at all. So that'll close out our Man City Corner. So guys, let me hit the closing music here quickly, and we'll get this show on the road as soon as we can here. So just want to mention, coming up next week is our last show of 2014, believe it or not. We'll be taking a 2-week break for the Christmas holiday, and so we're hoping to make next week's show a big one. We're efforting some guests. We already have one guest confirmed. That's Victor Scamorza is coming on to talk to us about anything and everything football. So he was recommended by Leonsis in the USA, and can't wait to talk to him next week. And he and I were going back and forth and chat a little bit, and he basically gave me a list of topics, and I was like, well, we could probably talk most of them, including Africa Cup of Nations, Champions League, Europa League, European teams, MLS, promotion, relegation. So we're going to kind of have a smorgasbord with him, and we're referencing a few more guests. Ben, any final thoughts?
No, just thanks to Kevin, thanks to Joel, 2 great guests again.
Mm-hmm.
Some great football, and we're coming up to a pivotal stage of the season, shall I say? And obviously, Champions League going into knockout, Europa going into knockout. So,
Right.
you know, we'll be able to report on that as well, and obviously all the league action. But yeah, it's getting really exciting, and this is the stage of the season where it all starts to unfold. So, looking forward to next week and lots more guests.
Right. Rob, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, it was a great show today. Great guests with Joel and Kevin, and hopefully next week we can close the year with some big guests, hopefully.
I agree. So again, like the boys said, special thanks to Joel Richards and Kevin Kinkead for joining us. This is episode 54 of Low Limit Football. Thanks and good night.
Thanks for listening.